I stood a little away from camp, tapping my forehead against a tree. Stupid, stupid, stupid. I'd acted like an idiot. North probably thought I couldn't hold a basic conversation. There was something there, tension, a shift, and I felt it. I'm pretty sure she did too. Instead of leaning in, I panicked, muttered something about practicing my skill, and bailed. Genius, I sighed. Plan, test the new skill, then go learn how to talk to a girl from Steve. I pulled up my status. Status. Name, Billion Ironheart. Race, human. Class, not applicable. Laws, not applicable. Level, 14. Talent, Generator 2. Essence, 10 out of 10. Attributes, Strength, 38. Constitution, 30. Dexterity, 26. Synapse, 36. Unused stats, 0. Skills. Essence Manipulation, Innate, LV, 2. Synapse Boost, Innate, LV, 2. Seismic Fist, LV, 1. Seismic Fist waited at the bottom like a dare. I rolled my shoulders, stretched, knocked out a few squats, then worked a tree with warm-up shots. 15 minutes later, the bark was pitted and groaning. Time for a real hit. Boom. A full power punch split the trunk. The top half listed and crashed. All right, now the skill. I squared to the next tree, sank my feet, drew a breath, and triggered it. Seismic Fist. A tight, coiling charge wound up my arm. More than raw strength, a compressed packet of force waiting to detonate. I punched. The impact didn't just break the trunk, it blew through it. Splinters exploded outward like the tree burst from the inside. My knuckles stung. I grinned. That was awesome. More than a quarter stronger than my full-strength punch. And this was level 1. Better yet, ideas started firing. What if I could shape the spread? Direct it deeper instead of just out? Drive shockwaves through a target? Sorry, trees. Only a little. I spent 3 hours experimenting. 6 seismic fists back-to-back was my current limit before a deeper fatigue set in. Less muscle burn, more core drain. Recovery needed. The build-up mattered. Plant, breathe, channel, strike. Rush it, and the output dipped. Twist at the waist, and the force traveled deeper. With focus, I could throttle output and throw half-power shots, still stronger than normal, but not wasteful. I shook out the ache. Enough destruction for today. Next challenge. Talk to North without imploding. Seismic Fist was the easy one. I muttered, then took off at a run. The wind helped shake the stiffness as I vaulted roots and ducked branches. Steve came into view on a fallen log, hunched over, chest heaving. You look dead. I feel dead, he groaned. Burst Flash is evil. My legs are actually crying. That bad. He glared. Try flashing forward 10 times and tell me how your knees feel. Pass. I like my knees. I sat across from him, hesitated, then said, I need your help. If it's punching me, no. Not that. What then? I scratched my head, already regretting this. Pretend you're North. He blinked, wiped his face, blinked again. I'm sorry. The exhaustion made me hear nonsense. I need to practice talking to her, I said fast. I froze earlier. It was awkward. Steve stared a beat, then burst out laughing. Billion Ironheart, folded by small talk. Are you helping or not? He wiped his eyes, still grinning. Then, in a ridiculous falsetto, oh, I'm helping. I'm North now. Immediate regret. He straightened, flipped imaginary hair, and trilled. Oh, Billion, so nice of you to find me. Whatever could you want? I cover my face. This was a mistake. He fluttered his eyelashes. Are you blushing? Can't handle my beauty. I'm going to punch you. Violence isn't the answer, he gasped. What about your undying love? That did it. I lunged. He yelped, rolled off the log, and took off. I chased him through the trees while he complained that his legs were falling off. We hit camp, and I slowed, surprise cooling the anger. North stood there, with a girl and 2 boys. One of them was standing way too close. Didn't like that. At all. Jaw tight, I started toward them. North saw us and smiled. You're back. She waved us over. Come here, I'll introduce you. I slowed, eyeing the guy standing too close to her, Mark Salt. He angled his body toward her like the space belonged to him. I already didn't like him. North pointed to the girl first. This is Sarah Winter, my cousin. Soft brown eyes, shoulder-length black hair, round face, friendly vibe. About 5'7", a little shorter than North, smaller frame but confident. She waved. Same sharp eyes as North, softer expression. Nice to meet you. North talks about you a lot, she said. Steve perked up. Only good things, I hope. Mostly, Sarah chuckled. Then she looked me over and winked. I was curious about the top ranker. Not what I expected. I glanced down. Everyone else wore uniforms. Even North had one on. Mine, actually. I was the only one almost 80% naked. I smiled. Good things should be exposed. That sounded better in my head. North moved on. This is Mark Salt. Short black hair, sharp black eyes, square jaw. Fit. Uniform, too tight on purpose. He crossed his arms and smirked. Hi, Billion. Nice to finally meet you. Been wanting to since the commander said he upped the difficulty because of you. Right, I said. And this is Brad Park. Taller than all of us. Broad. Easy posture. Messy brown hair. Strength under the calm. He nodded. Hey. North turned back to us. These two are Billion and Steve. I've been fighting with them this past week. Mark looked me up and down. What is your goal running around naked like this, Billion? To grow strong, I said. He laughed, just a bit condescending. You are strong. Strength isn't everything. In the capital, we learn that power without refinement is wasted potential. Noble families invest in training, strategy, connections. That is what separates warriors from brutes. Steve tensed. I shrugged. Sounds nice. His smile twitched, then he pivoted to North. We go way back. Trained together, studied together. Our families are close. He glanced at me. Funny you ended up in Unit 02. I thought you would be with Unit 01. North folded her arms. Things don't always go as planned. Mark kept going. You always had talent. Remember when we sparred? You were one of the few who could beat me. MHM, North said. And I remember you dodging when things got rough. Steve snorted. I fought the smirk. Tactical retreats, Mark said. That is what separates a fighter from a reckless brawler. I nodded. Right. Brad finally spoke. Are we going to stand here all day or talk about something useful? Mark chuckled. Patience. I was getting to know Billion. He turned back to me. Impressive you made it this far. Most in your position struggle without early training. Is that so? In the capital we start young, he said. Structured drills, disciplined guidance, advanced strategy. Different level of preparation. He smiled with an edge. I imagine it was different for you. A little, I said. He waited for more. I gave him nothing. At least North has familiar faces here, he added, looking at her. Remember our first team exercise? We got paired and led the group. Instructors said we had great synergy. North nodded. It was a long time ago. Feels like yesterday. We made a good team. She hummed, non-committal. I stayed quiet. He wanted a reaction, wanted to plant the idea that he and North belonged together. I crossed my arms and looked back at him. North cut in. I was thinking we all team up tomorrow and hunt abominations together. Share support, use our abilities well, level faster, and sharpen skills. My brow creased. I did not like that. Mark was level 9. Sarah and Brad were 8. They would not keep pace. Not with me. Not even with Steve. I had planned for Steve and North to run together while I cleared a path. That plan was dying fast. Mark stepped in. He shook his head. I don't think that is a good idea. North frowned. Why not? Together we can handle tougher fights. We have been a unit since the start, he said, patient like he was explaining a rule to a child. Dropping in new people can break coordination. He flicked a glance at me and Steve, and their style is different. Too reckless. When did this guy see us fight? He softened his tone at North. We should stick to what we know. You, me, Sarah, Brad. We have been through everything together. It makes sense. North hesitated. Something tightened in my chest. She looked at me. I held her gaze, waiting. Say what you were thinking. She nodded instead. All right. I'll go with you. I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. Good. Mark said, smirk back in place. Let's not waste time. North gave me a small smile. We'll meet later, okay? I nodded, face steady. She left with them. I watched her back as they went. Mark glanced over his shoulder, smirked one more time, and followed her out.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually, I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
I stood in place, silent, my mind filled with thoughts I couldn't sort out. I was pulled out of it when Steve spoke. "You're thinking too much." I turned to look at him. He shook his head. "Come on, let's sit and talk." He grabbed 2 water bottles, tossed one to me, and then sat down, leaning against a tree trunk. After taking a sip, he spoke again. "So what's on your mind? You don't seem angry," he asked. I exhaled. I'm not sure who to be mad at. Myself, for not being able to talk to her properly? Mark, since he's a jerk? Or North, for just leaving like that? Steve chuckled. "You can't be mad at North. Those 3 have been her friends for years. You just met her a few days ago. You can't expect her to leave them and stick with you." Yeah, I get it. But that doesn't mean I have to like it." I snorted. Steve took another sip of water before speaking. "You're really bothered by this, huh?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "It's not just that she left. It's Mark. He's only level 9, but the way he talks, you'd think he was leagues ahead of us." Steve scoffed. "Capital kids, man. They're all like that. They grow up thinking they're special just because of their families. They get the best training, best resources, best everything. Even if they're weaker, they act like they're the strongest in the room." I frowned. It's annoying. He wasn't even subtle about it. He wanted North to leave us. And she went. Steve raised an eyebrow. "Did you expect her to stay?" I hesitated before answering. "Yeah, maybe." Steve gave me a knowing look. "I think you're forgetting something important. North is from the capital too." I shrugged. "She's not like them." "Maybe not, but that's still where she's from. You can't blame her for wanting to be with people she's known for years." I didn't answer right away. I knew he was right, but it didn't make me feel any better. Steve smirked. "You're sulking." "I'm not. You are." I exhaled sharply. "I just don't like how he acts like he owns her." Steve's smirk faded a little. "Yeah, I noticed that too." He didn't even hide it. "He probably sees you as competition." I let out a dry chuckle. "Then he's an idiot." "I'm not even." I trailed off, not sure how to finish that sentence. Steve grinned. "Not even what? Interested? Because, man, you are so obvious." I glared at him, but he just laughed. "Look," he said, leaning back. "Mark's arrogant, yeah. But in the end, levels don't lie. He can talk all he wants, but if he can't back it up, it won't matter." I nodded slowly. "You're right. Now there's only one thing left to do. Smash some monsters right in front of his face. Let's see if he can keep that smirk then." Twisting the cap off my bottle, I downed the entire thing in one go before exhaling. "Anyway, I've got the rest of the month to get North back to our camp." Steve nodded, leaning back. I continued. "That aside, how should we approach the fight tomorrow?" Steve stayed silent for a few seconds before answering. "Well, what kind of future do you see for yourself? If you want to lead an army, then tomorrow's your chance to start. Take charge, lead everyone. But if you're set on being a lone wolf, then you should fight alone." That made me pause. I hadn't really thought that far ahead. But the truth was, there wasn't much to think about. I was, and always would be, a lone wolf rushing ahead. Even the entire Unit 02 wouldn't be able to keep up with me. The Empire's army? Even less so. I wasn't built to stay in formation, to lead from within the ranks. And my talent only reinforced that. I wasn't the kind of leader who stood in the middle of his people, giving orders. I was the one who carved the path forward, forcing everyone else to try and catch up. I wouldn't be staying in this world forever. There were stronger worlds out there, and I wanted to go, explore, maybe even conquer them. I smirked and looked at Steve. "I think you already know what kind of future I'll have." Steve chuckled. "Yeah, I know. And I like that. I'm not exactly social enough to follow you if you start playing Commander. I'd rather go around slashing things alone." I laughed. "Hell yeah." I stood up, stretched, and said, "All right, let's spar for the rest of the day. There are a few things I want to try." Steve nodded, grabbed his sword, and got to his feet. Moving a short distance away from our camp, we began sparring. Arc Israeli, the commander, POV. I flew high above the sky, arms crossed, watching the members of Unit 02 rush toward the volcano. For the past 2 weeks, I had observed every fight, every decision, and every mistake they made. They had been thrown into the fire, and while they weren't perfect, they hadn't broken yet. That was good. It meant they had potential. What I hated most was complaints. We didn't have the luxury for that. Whatever was thrown at us, we fought through it. Simple. And I was pleased that, out of the 100 members, only about 20 were still wasting time whining. The rest had understood either adapt or fall behind. My gaze shifted and settled on Billion Ironheart, the anomaly. He was raw, wild, and far stronger than anyone else in the unit. He tore through obstacles instead of maneuvering around them. I liked that. He was like me in that way. No nonsense, just smashing through problems. His growth rate was absurd. In just 2 weeks, he had gone from promising to outright dangerous. His current progress already matched the best of Unit 01, and that was good for me. No, actually, it would be even better if he grew far stronger than them. The members of Unit 01 needed a reality check. They needed to realize they weren't untouchable. Billion was also one of the few who truly understood my words when I told them that no one would die in the first month. It was a direct message that throw yourselves into danger, grow as much and as fast as possible while you still have a safety net. I had seen all his fights at the checkpoints, and my favorite was when he went to save Steve. The way he sprinted for hours without hesitation to reach his best friend, that kind of loyalty was admirable. I had also heard his discussion with Steve about the kind of warrior he wanted to be, and I approved. We needed men like that. Men who could stand at the front, not just as leaders, but as symbols, as guardians of our world. We had plenty of commanders, plenty of strategists. What we needed was a king, an ace we could throw against the Eternals and the threats lurking within our own empire. I narrowed my eyes. The internal threats. Even though we were at war with the Eternals, greed still thrived. There were always people looking to take advantage of the chaos, always scheming to gain power for themselves. My world wasn't strong enough to fend off all these dangers. Not yet. It wasn't just the Eternals we had to worry about. There were factions within our own world, backed by other powerful worlds, that sought to overthrow the Rayleigh royal family and seize control. They hid behind diplomacy and trade agreements, but we all knew the truth. They weren't allies, they were waiting, circling like vultures, ready to strike the moment we showed weakness. I clenched my fists. We weren't strong enough to cast them out. Not yet. So we had to play their game, act courteous, and fight on their terms. It was frustrating, but until we had the power to push them out completely, we had no choice. And because of them, the elite units suffered. The casualty rate of our best warriors was no coincidence. We knew what was happening. These factions were pulling strings, manipulating events, making sure our strongest soldiers were sent to die in battles they had no business fighting. They wanted to weaken us, to bleed us dry until we had no elites left. Once that happened, our world would fall into their hands without a single war. I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to relax. That was why I needed warriors like Billion Ironheart. If we couldn't win by playing their game, then we needed someone who could break the board entirely. Tomorrow, when the volcano abomination awakens, your real trial will begin. Billion, I murmured. Prove to me that you're different, and I'll have your back. Billion's POV. I stood at the edge of the forest, arms crossed, staring at the distant volcano. The air was heavy with the scent of ash and earth, even though the eruption hadn't started yet. The sky was clear, a bright morning sun casting long shadows across the land. It was too calm, too quiet. Steve stood beside me, his sword resting against his shoulder, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. He had been silent for the past few minutes, only occasionally glancing at the volcano before looking back at me. This feels weird, he finally muttered. I nodded. Yeah, like the calm before a storm. The volcano hadn't erupted yet, but we knew it was coming. The whole unit did. Today would be the start of something different, something harder. For the past 2 weeks, we had fought abominations, but this one was supposed to be on a whole different level. A test, a challenge, or maybe just a slaughter. I rolled my shoulders, feeling the slight ache from yesterday's training session. My knuckles were still sore from all the seismic fist practice. My uniform, well, What little of it I actually wore was already covered in faint burn marks from previous fights. I had a feeling it wouldn't survive today. Steve sighed. How long do you think we have? I glanced at the volcano. Not long. Maybe an hour. Maybe a few minutes. Steve groaned. Great. Love, the unpredictability. I smirked. Keeps things interesting. He gave me a look. Yeah, well, you can find it interesting. I'd rather not be burned alive. I chuckled, but didn't say anything. My focus was on the mountain. I wasn't scared, but there was something about facing an enemy like this that made me eager. I took a deep breath, letting my gaze drift from the volcano to my own hands. Strength, skill, talent. I had them all. But was it enough? In the past 2 weeks, I had grown stronger at an insane rate. My stats had shot up, my body had adapted, and my skill set had expanded. Seismic Fist was now one of my strongest attacks, but I was still figuring out how to use it efficiently. It was powerful, but it drained me fast. My generator talent was my biggest advantage. Energy absorption and essence generation, I had barely scratched the surface of what I could do with it. Right now, I could absorb energy, use it to generate essence, and boost my physical abilities, but I knew there had to be more. I just needed to push myself further. The problem was that no one could guide me. Most warriors had skills passed down from generations, teachers to refine their techniques, and a clear path to follow. I had none of that. My talent was unique. I had to figure it all out on my own. That didn't bother me. If anything, it excited me. I didn't want to follow someone else's path. I want to carve my own. But to do that, I needed to keep growing, keep pushing, keep winning. And today, the volcano would be my next step. A low rumble shook the ground beneath my feet. Steve stiffened beside me. Before he could finish, the sky darkened. A deep, guttural roar echoed from the mountain, a sound so loud and raw that I felt it in my bones. Then, with a deafening explosion, the volcano erupted. Flames shot into the sky, a massive pillar of fire and smoke twisting upward like a living thing. Ash and molten rock spewed from the crater, tumbling down the mountainside in a blazing cascade. The ground trembled violently, and I had to brace myself to keep from stumbling. Steve swore under his breath. Well, that's definitely a wake. Chunks of burning rock the size of houses crashed into the ground, sending shockwaves through the earth. The heat hit us next, a wave of scorching air that felt like standing too close to a forge. Then came the figures. Silhouettes moved within the smoke and fire, shapes emerging from the inferno. Abominations. Their bodies twisted and molten, some covered in jagged black rock, others dripping lava as they stomped forward. They didn't just crawl out, they marched, as if they had been waiting for this moment. My fingers curled into fists, and a slow grin spread across my face. Now this, I muttered, is more like it. I narrowed my eyes as I scanned the abominations emerging from the volcano, each one more terrifying than the last. At the front were the Inferno Hounds, massive, four-legged beasts standing nearly 6 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in blackened, cracked hide, glowing faintly with the heat trapped inside. Their eyes blazed like embers, and each step they took left a trail of scorched earth behind them. Even from this distance, I could hear their guttural growls, deep and menacing. Behind them, towering figures marched forward, the magma golems. These hulking creatures stood at least 8 feet tall, their bodies appearing as if they had been molded from volcanic rock itself. Their hardened, blackened exteriors were cracked and jagged, glowing veins of molten lava pulsing beneath the surface. Each step they took sent tremors through the ground. To the sides of the golems, another group of creatures moved with unsettling agility, smoldering apes. They were nearly as tall as the Inferno Hounds, but far bulkier, their thick chests and broad shoulders giving them a monstrous strength. Instead of skin, their bodies were lined with glowing magma veins, sizzling and hissing with every movement. Drool, thick and burning, dripped from their mouths, melting the ground beneath them. Then I saw something that made me pause. Another group of creatures emerged, ones I hadn't expected to see, blazing orcs. Their sheer size rivaled that of the magma golems. But unlike the slow-moving titans, These creatures were built for war. Their skin was a deep, molten red, glowing faintly from the magma coursing through their veins. Jagged, rock-like protrusions jutted from their shoulders and backs, adding to their already menacing forms. Each orc carried a massive club, its surface covered in molten cracks, the spikes on it glowing with intense heat. I exhaled slowly. This wasn't just a random eruption of abominations. This was an army. Silence stretched across the battlefield, heavy and suffocating. The only sound were the distant rumbling of the erupting volcano and the steady, thunderous march of the abomination army. There were only two battlefronts for this fight, one on our side, where we stood, and another behind the volcano, where more abominations were likely gathering. The creatures continued to emerge, splitting into groups as they moved toward both battlefields, their numbers growing by the second. I shifted my gaze, scanning the warriors of Unit 02 scattered around me. Many stood frozen in place, their faces a mixture of shock, disbelief, and fear. Some gripped their weapons tightly, knuckles turning white, while others trembled at the sheer scale of what we were up against. I glanced around, searching for Logan, but I couldn't find him anywhere. The last time I saw him was back when I was leaving for Checkpoint 22. Had he fallen behind? Or had he chosen to fight at the other battlefield? I made a mental note to look for him later. Finally, my eyes settled on a familiar figure standing with her group, North. And, as if she could sense my gaze, she turned and met my eyes. She was still wearing my uniform, the sleeves rolled up, the pants adjusted to fit her better. Her fingers curled tightly around her longbow, her stance steady despite the tension in the air. Her expression was unreadable, brows slightly furrowed, lips pressed together as if lost in thought. I held her gaze for a moment, unsure of what was going through her mind. Then, unable to stop myself, I smiled. For a second, she didn't react. But then, slowly, her expression softened. Her grip on the bow relaxed, and she smiled back. Even with the battle looming ahead, that moment made everything feel a little lighter. I shifted my gaze away from North and focused straight ahead. Rolling my shoulders, I cracked my knuckles, feeling the anticipation settle into my bones. One last check of my status. Everything was perfect. My essence store sat at full capacity, 10 out of 10. Taking a deep breath, I funneled all 10 points into dexterity, pushing it to 36. Immediately, my body felt lighter, more responsive. Speed was going to be my biggest advantage here. My plan was simple: cause as much havoc as possible. I'd tear through the battlefield, smash apart some abominations, and get a feel for how each type moved, attacked, and reacted. Closing my eyes for a brief second, I activated my talent. Power Up! A deep, rhythmic thrum pulsed from my chest as my generator core roared to life. I felt the familiar surge of energy flood my system, my muscles tightening, preparing to absorb and generate essence. I was ready. I turned to Steve. "Let's go." He nodded without hesitation. Bending my legs, I launched forward. The ground cracked beneath my feet as I shot across the battlefield like a bullet. I scanned the front row of abominations, quickly checking their levels. Most of them were around level 10 or 11. Good. That was exactly what I wanted. With a burst of speed, I shot straight into the pack of Inferno hounds leading the charge. My first target, a level 10 beast, barely had time to react before my knee slammed into its skull. With my strength sitting at 38, the impact was overkill. Its head exploded, shards of rock and molten lava scattering through the air. I landed smoothly in the middle of the pack, heat radiating from their burning bodies. Spinning on my heel, I lashed out with a brutal kick, my legs smashing into the stomach of another hound. Its body split clean in half, molten insides spilling onto the ground. The heat around me intensified, the air thick with scorching energy, but I ignored it. My eyes locked onto another hound lunging at me, jaws wide open, flames flickering between its teeth. I caught it mid-attack, gripping its lower jaw with one hand. With a grunt, I lifted the beast and slammed it down onto another hound, their bodies crunching against the rocky ground. A deep roar tore from my throat as I charged forward, fists flying. My knuckles cracked against the skull of one hound, shattering it instantly. Another lunged at me from the side, and I pivoted, driving my fist into its throat. It collapsed with a single fist. From the corner of my eye, I spotted Steve moving through the pack, his sword flashing as he slit their throats with precise, controlled strikes. The sweat on my body was thick now, my bare chest drenched from the sheer heat surrounding me. My core absorbed that energy, heat pooling inside my chest, and I felt the familiar pulse as essence began generating. I grinned. Pushing forward, I seized two hounds by their throats, my enhanced dexterity making my movements near invisible to them. With a powerful leap, I shot high into the air, carrying both beasts with me. Mid-spin, I twisted my body, and with a roar, I hurled them downward, smashing them into the rest of the pack below. Lava splattered, bodies broke, and I landed in the chaos, ready for more. I glanced over my shoulder. The members of Unit 02 who were still standing at the sidelines were staring at me and Steve, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. I ignored them. Their reactions didn't matter. Instead, my eyes searched the battlefield until they landed on North. She was sprinting across the ground, her longbow in hand, moving toward the magma golems. Her group followed closely behind her, their formation tight, their movements coordinated. I watched her for a second longer, then turned back. There was no point in hesitating. I had my own targets to deal with. My gaze locked onto the next group. Smoldering apes. Time to see what you are capable of. I dashed toward the smoldering apes, my body still thrumming with power. The temporary boost to my dexterity was ticking down, but I was still good to go. The heat around them was even worse than the Inferno hounds. Streams of molten saliva dripped from their mouths, sizzling against the ground. Their bright red eyes locked onto me, their massive, muscular bodies tensing as they prepared to attack. One of them, a level 11, let out a guttural roar and swung its massive fist down at me. I dodged to the side, feeling the rush of hot air as its punch slammed into the earth, sending chunks of molten rock flying. Without wasting a second, I shot forward, my fist smashing into its thick ribs. Crack! And with a boom, its upper body exploded. I turned to another ape. Snarling, it swiped at me, faster this time. I ducked, then exploded upward with a vicious uppercut. My knuckles crashed against its chin, bursting its head. I spun on my heel and kicked another ape right into its chest. Its body lifted off the ground for a split second before it came crashing down. Before it could recover, I grabbed it by the throat and slammed it onto the ground again, a burst of heat rising from its body. The other apes howled in rage and charged. One leaped high into the air, its arms raised to smash me into the ground. I bent my knees and jumped toward it, meeting it midair. My knee drove into its gut, and before it could react, I grabbed its arms and spun, using the momentum to hurl it straight into another ape below. The two collided, a burst of steam rising as their burning bodies crashed together. I landed smoothly, rolling my shoulders. 3 left. One of them, a level 10, charged at me with surprising speed, its thick arms swinging wildly. I weaved through its attacks, my enhanced dexterity making it feel slow. I ducked under a wide hook and countered with a brutal punch to its ribs. A crack split the air, but I didn't stop. I grabbed its head and yanked it downward, my knee shooting up to meet its face. A loud crunch, then silence. It collapsed. I exhaled and dashed forward, closing the distance before the remaining apes could react. My foot slammed into one's knee, shattering it instantly. As it howled in pain, I grabbed its arm and wrenched it clean off, lava spraying from the wound. Then, with a backhanded slap, I shattered its head. Only one ape remained from this group. In a blur, I appeared behind it. My arm wrapped around its thick neck, and with a sharp twist, I snapped its neck and pulled the head out from its body. Its burning body slumped to the ground, lifeless. I straightened, rolling my neck. My heart thrummed as my core absorbed the energy, converting it into fresh essence. I clenched my fists, feeling the surge of power run through me. Now, on to the next enemy. I set my sights on the group of 6 magma golems, marching forward, their molten veins pulsing beneath thick black stone. They moved slow, their heavy steps shaking the ground, but that didn't matter to me. I pushed off the ground, dirt and rock exploding beneath my feet. I sprinted for a few seconds and then burst forward. In an instant, I was in front of the first golem. My fist shot out, slamming into its face. Boom! Its head shattered, molten rock spraying as its body collapsed. Before the pieces even hit the ground, I twisted midair, my fist already driving into the next golem's skull. Crack! Its head exploded, chunks of burning rock flying in all directions. I didn't stop. I shifted my weight, launching toward the third. My knuckles buried into its cheek with a sickening crunch, its entire upper body caving in before bursting into rocks. I spun, caught movement in my peripheral, and snapped my elbow into the jaw of another golem behind me. Its head cracked apart like brittle stone, and I followed through with a backhand that sent its remains flying. The last 2 golems raised their arms, too slow. I was already moving. I crouched low, then surged upward, an uppercut slamming into the 5th golem's chin. Boom! It shot into the air before breaking apart mid-flight, lava and stone raining down. The final golem barely had time to turn before I leaped, and my palm came crashing down onto its head. Bang! Its head shattered instantly, and its massive body slumped over like a puppet with its strings cut. I exhaled, shaking dust off my hand. So far, the magma golems were the easiest to deal with. Too slow, too predictable. My increased dexterity made them nothing more than stationary targets. I barely had to think, just move, strike, and shatter them one after another. I checked my essence store. In such a short time, I had already generated 4 points of essence. The sheer amount of kinetic and heat energy around me was fueling my core at an insane rate. Every punch, every movement, every impact, it was all being converted into more power. I rolled my shoulders, feeling the raw energy coursing through me. I glanced around, taking in the battlefield. Steve was carving through the Inferno hounds, his sword flashing as he sliced through their throats and backs with brutal efficiency. North had reached the magma golems on the other side, her bowstring snapping as she loosed arrow after arrow. Beyond them, more members of Unit 02 were finally joining the battle. I shifted my gaze and locked onto the blazing orcs next. I rushed forward, my eyes locked onto the 4 blazing orcs ahead. Each one towered over me, their massive bodies glowing red from the molten energy flowing within. In their hands, they gripped rocky, spike clubs, brutal weapons meant to crush anything in their path. The first orc roared and swung its club down toward me. Instead of dodging, I raised my forearm and caught the brunt of the strike. A heavy shockwave rippled through my body, the force pressing me down slightly, but I held firm. My muscles burned, but I didn't break my stance. The orc's molten eyes widened, slightly surprised that I didn't crumble under its strength. Before I could counter, another orc lunged from the side, swinging its weapon toward my ribs. I shifted just enough to absorb the blow with my other arm. The impact sent me skidding across the ground. I clenched my fists, eyes narrowing. These orcs weren't just mindless brutes. They were fast, their attacks refined, their footwork sharp. They weren't just relying on brute strength. They fought with skill. A grin spread across my face. This was going to be fun. The orc lunged at me, raising its club high. I sidestepped, feeling the rush of air as the weapon smashed into the ground, sending molten rock spraying everywhere. Before it could lift its weapon again, I exploded forward, my fist driving straight into its chest. The impact caved in its ribs and sent cracks spreading across its molten skin. It barely had time to gasp before its body shattered, chunks of hardened rock and magma scattering across the battlefield. I snatched its club from the ground. It was heavy, but in my hands it felt just right. My fingers tightened around the rough stone grip. The remaining 3 orcs snarled, stepping forward in unison. The closest one lifted its club high, but I moved first. With a burst of speed, I swung my stolen weapon sideways, the sheer force behind it smashing through the orc's waist. Its body split in half, magma spilling onto the ground like blood. I spun, shifting my grip, and lunged at the next orc. It tried to block with its weapon, but I twisted mid-air and brought the club crashing down on its head. The impact split its skull open, magma spraying from the cracks before its body collapsed into a heap of molten rock. I looked at the last orc. I shot forward, gripping the club with both hands, and swung upward. The jagged spikes slammed into the orc's chin, snapping its head back violently. Its molten veins pulsed one last time before its body fractured from the force, breaking apart in a shower of fiery debris. I exhaled, tossing the club aside. My heart thrummed with essence, and my body was heating up nicely. I was getting into the rhythm, but this wasn't enough. I needed stronger enemies, not these level 10s and 11s. I wanted the real threats, the kind that would push me to my limits, force me to dig deeper. I scanned the battlefield, searching for something more. But the strongest abomination I could find was only level 12. Disappointing. Around me, Unit 02 was locked in combat, fighting in groups, slowly chipping away at the monsters. I turned my gaze toward the volcano. That was where I needed to go. If there were stronger abominations, they'd be near the source. Without hesitation, I sprinted forward, cutting through the battlefield like a bullet. Any abomination that got in my way fell instantly, shattered by a single punch, crumpled under a devastating kick. Their bodies barely slowed me down. The further I pushed, the more I cut through the first wave, at least 60 abominations standing in my way. They fell one after another, shattered by my fists and crushed beneath my strides. I didn't slow down. By the time I reached the halfway point, the battlefield behind me was littered with broken bodies, and I'd already left them all behind, moving straight toward the mouth of the volcano. The heat around me grew more intense, waves of scalding air rolling over my skin. My bare feet smacked against the lava-covered ground, cracking the scorched earth beneath me with every powerful stride. I locked my gaze on the peak of the volcano. I slowed my pace as I neared the summit of the volcano. There was no sign of any more abominations. I stepped forward, standing at the very edge of the volcano's mouth. The heat was suffocating, pressing down on me like a living forge. Waves of scalding air rolled upward from the molten depths, distorting my vision and drying the sweat on my skin before it could even form. The ground beneath my feet was cracked and charred, radiating heat so intense that even breathing felt like inhaling fire. Below me, the massive crater stretched nearly 100 feet deep, a lake of molten rock bubbling and roiling. The volcano sounded like a slumbering beast, growling in its sleep. Each time the lava shifted, thick plumes of steam and toxic fumes hissed into the air, the stench of burning minerals and sulfur filling my lungs. But what caught my attention weren't just the fiery depths. It was the 4 tunnels carved into the inner walls of the crater, evenly spaced around the perimeter. Each tunnel had guardians. Abominations stood at the entrances. Each of the 4 different abominations fighting outside occupied one tunnel. I frowned. There was no visible way for them to climb out of those tunnels. No ledges, no steps, nothing that would allow them to ascend. Suddenly, I thought of something. Did the eruption itself launch them to the surface? The volcano wasn't just spewing fire, it was spewing monsters. The realization sent a thrill through me. This wasn't just some random spawning ground. This was a hatchery, a nest designed to create and unleash wave after wave of destruction. And I had no doubt that deeper inside, stronger creatures were waiting to emerge. I took a slow breath, feeling my generator core hum within my chest. My body had been absorbing the ambient heat all this time, the scorching temperature feeding into my essence store. The kinetic energy from my movements and the heat radiating from the volcano were fueling me, turning every moment into raw, usable power. Good. I scanned the tunnels, my eyes locking onto one, in particular the one where 2 orcs stood. They were bigger than the ones I had fought before, their molten red skin glowing beneath the cracks of their hardened exteriors. Each one gripped a massive spiked club, heat radiating off the weapons like they had been pulled straight from the forge. Level 13. Perfect. I took a step back, steadying myself. The volcano rumbled beneath me, another low growl from the beast slumbering below. I could feel the next wave building, but I had no intention of waiting. For the first time since the battle started, I activated my skill. Essence Manipulation. A surge of raw power flooded my limbs as I channeled essence into my legs, compacting and reinforcing my muscles. My body tensed, energy coiling like a compressed spring, heat and kinetic force merging into one explosive motion. Then I moved. A short sprint. A single, devastating leap. I soared through the scorching air, clearing the lava pit in one bound. The orcs barely had time to react before I slammed into them like a living projectile, sending all three of us crashing into the tunnel. The moment we hit the ground, the real fight began. In an instant, I rolled to my feet and let out a roar. Grabbing the nearest orc by its legs, I channeled essence into my back and hands, strengthening my grip. With a sharp jerk, I swung the orc like a club, smashing into the others. Roars and growls echoed through the tunnel. The space was tight, barely 6 feet wide and 12 foot tall, but that was more than enough for me to rampage. Essence surged into my fists, and I attacked. One punch crushed a chest. Another shattered a skull. I grabbed an orc by the throat, lifted it, and slammed it into the tunnel wall. Its body cracked like brittle stone. The narrow space worked in my favor. They had no room to escape. I ducked under a wild swing and countered with an uppercut, sending the orc crashing into the wall. Another lunged at me, its spiked club swinging fast. I caught it midair. Heat burned against my palm, but I ignored it. With a sharp yank, I tore the weapon from its grip and brought it down, crushing its head into the ground. And then silence. I exhaled, my gaze sweeping over the broken remains of the orcs. The heat in the tunnel was even more intense than outside, the air thick and heavy. It was time to see what lay deeper inside. Pressed against my skin, heavier than before. Sweat dripped down my body, but I barely noticed. My generator core hummed, absorbing the heat and converting it into essence. The deeper I went, the louder the air rumbled, like a beast breathing beneath the surface. The tunnel twisted, and then I saw them, another group of orcs. 4 of them, all level 13. They stood at the center of the tunnel, their glowing red eyes locking onto me. Their rocky, magma-filled bodies radiated heat, and their spiked clubs dripped with molten rock. One of them roared and charged first, swinging its weapon down. I burst forward, my knee collided with its head, shattering its head. The others came next, attacking in unison. I weaved between their swings, my fists smashing through ribs and skulls. The fight was over in seconds. The tunnel fell silent again. I stepped over the broken remains and kept moving forward. The slope grew steeper, the heat even more intense. The heat grew worse with every step, and my feet burned against the scorching ground. I pushed forward, realizing I had descended almost 70 to 80 feet below the volcano's mouth. The air felt thick, heavy with heat and the scent of molten rock. Then, I entered a vast hall. I slowed, surprised. A space like this shouldn't exist inside a volcano. Massive stone pillars stretched up, supporting a ceiling nearly 2 stories high. The walls and floor looked carved and reinforced, as if something had deliberately shaped this place. Despite the structure, the heat was unbearable. Just standing there made my skin sting. But what caught my attention were the magma pods. They covered the floor, the walls, even parts of the ceiling, pulsing faintly with energy. Inside each pod, I could see orcs, their massive bodies curled within, their forms barely visible through the thick, molten shell. I frowned and scanned them, but no system alert appeared. Then, my gaze shifted to the center of the hall. 3 orcs stood there, gripping their spiked clubs. Their glowing red eyes locked onto me, their molten veins pulsing with heat. I scanned them. Level 16. A grin spread across my face. Finally, some good action. I rolled my shoulders and stepped forward to meet them. The orcs didn't wait. As soon as I stepped forward, they charged. Their heavy bodies shook the ground, their skin glowing like molten rock beneath hardened black plates. The heat pouring off them was intense. I could feel it scorching my skin with every step they took. The first orc swung its club in a wide arc, aiming to crush me in one blow. I braced my legs, channeled essence into my arms, and caught the club with both hands. My muscles tensed, the force behind the swing pushing me back an inch, but I held firm. Before I could counter, the second orc lunged from my right, its weapon crashing down toward my shoulder. I twisted, letting the attack skim past me, the heat searing across my bare skin. But the third orc was already moving, faster than I expected. A fiery fist slammed into my ribs, sending a shockwave of pain through my body. My feet slid across the stone floor, the heat making it hard to maintain my footing. I exhaled sharply. Ouch! I pushed essence in my legs and burst forward. The second orc lifted its club for another swing, but I was faster. I slammed my fist into its gut, the impact cracking its hardened skin. It staggered, and before it could recover, I spun and drove an elbow into its jaw. The third orc lunged at me from behind, but I caught its movement from the corner of my eye. I ducked just as its club whooshed overhead. In the same motion, I grabbed its arm and, with a surge of essence, twisted my body and hurled it into the first orc. The two of them crashed into a pillar, the stone cracking under their combined weight. The second orc recovered, letting out a guttural roar as it came at me again. I met its charge head-on, essence flooding into my arms. My fist slammed into its chest, this time with enough force to shatter through its rocky armor. Magma leaked from the wound as the orc choked, staggering back. The other two pulled themselves from the wreckage, their eyes burning with fury. They rushed me together. I welcomed it. I pivoted, dodging the first club strike while slamming my knee into the third orc's stomach. At the same time, I caught the first orc's wrist mid-swing and twisted it violently, snapping the joint. Its weapon clattered to the ground. With a final burst of essence, I grabbed the weakened orc by the head and drove it into the stone floor. The impact shattered its skull, sending cracks spiderwebbing through the ground. Two left. The second orc let out a bellow of rage and swung wildly. I sidestepped, my speed overwhelming its sluggish movements, and delivered a clean uppercut to its jaw. Its head snapped back, and I followed up with a sharp kick to its knee, forcing it to buckle. A final strike to its neck put it down for good. The last orc hesitated for a split second. I was already in front of it. I caught its throat with one hand and squeezed, lifting it off the ground. Essence surged through me, and with one final motion, I slammed the orc into the nearest pillar. Stone cracked, and the creature's body went limp. Silence settled over the hall, broken only by the distant rumble of the volcano. Then I saw the message. Level up. Level 14, level 15. I rolled my shoulders, my skin still burning from the heat. A smirk tugged at my lips. That's more like it. I added 2 points to strength and 3 to constitution, feeling the immediate shift in my body. Then, I pulled up my status to take a look. Status? Name, Billion Ironheart. Race, human. Class, not applicable. Laws, not applicable. Level, 14. Talent, Generator 2. Essence, 5 out of 10. Attributes, Strength, 40. Constitution, 33. Dexterity, 28. Synapse, 36. And use stats, 0. Skills, Essence Manipulation, Innate, Level 2. Synapse Boost, Innate, Level 2. Seismic Fist, Level 1. I put points into Constitution to withstand the heat around me. Taking a deep breath, I let my essence generator absorb the lingering heat in the air, fueling my body. If level 16s were guarding this place, what else was waiting deeper inside? I picked up 2 clubs, one in each hand, giving them a few test swings before heading toward the end of the hall. Another tunnel stretched ahead, its entrance framed by the glow of magma. Leaving the pulsing pods behind, I stepped inside. I moved through the tunnel as it twisted downward, the heat growing thicker with every step. Finally, I reached a gaping hole in the ground. Peering down, I spotted another floor below. Without hesitation, I dropped down. I landed smoothly from nearly 20 feet, my body absorbing the impact with ease. The space around me stretched wide, a massive cavern carved deep within the volcano. Unlike the structure hall above, this place felt raw and untouched. Jagged black rocks jutted from the walls and ceiling, some glowing red-hot from the heat. Magma dripped from cracks above, hissing as it splattered onto the stone floor. Pools of molten lava bubbled across the cavern, casting flickering light against the rough, uneven walls. The ground beneath me was a mixture of hardened lava and smooth black stone cracked from the heat. And then there were the pods. They covered everything, hanging from the ceiling like bloated sacks, lodged into the walls, clustered together in uneven piles along the ground. These weren't like the ones above. They were larger, their surfaces thicker, and they pulsed with slow, deep movements. Whatever was inside them was bigger, stronger. I turned around to take in the entire space, then froze. What the fuck? I jolted back, my breath catching. Standing right in front of me was our commander, Ark Israeli. Oh, is that how you greet your commander? I snapped to attention. Soldier Billion Ironheart, reporting commander. Arcas tilted his head, rubbing a hand over his bald head. Commander? I thought you preferred to call me Bald Demon. Didn't you? I stared straight into his eyes and kept my mouth shut. What happened? You're usually full of energy, but now you don't even have the strength to speak. We'll talk about energy when I'm as strong as you, Bald Demon. No, Commander, I replied. What do you mean, no, Commander? Are you saying you're not energetic? I am energetic, Commander. Very energetic, I replied. Arcas shook his head with a grin, then patted my shoulder. You can relax, Billion. I don't follow military rules that strictly, but as long as you're in Unit 02, you still have to call me Commander. I nodded and let my shoulders loosen a little. Arcas studied me for a few seconds before gesturing toward the massive cavern. What do you think this place is? I glanced around, taking in the pulsing pods, the heat, the magma pools. I think this is the Orc Abomination's nest. You mentioned a powerful abomination being caged here, right? Maybe this is where the orcs are created. Arcas shook his head. You've got two things wrong, Billion. First, these orcs aren't abominations. I frowned. They're not? Then what are they? They're creations of that powerful abomination. The orcs, the golems, even the hounds outside, they're not independent creatures. They're puppets, maybe even just summoned pets. They were created using laws and essence. I narrowed my eyes. Laws? If it can create this many creatures, just how strong is this abomination? And if it's that dangerous, why is it caged? Why aren't we killing it? Arcas cracked his knuckles. You're not strong enough to know those secrets yet. But yes, it's powerful. The way it uses essence and laws, it's ingenious. Then he turned to me, his expression shifting. Arcas shook his head, a small grin tugging at the corner of his lips. The second thing you got wrong is that this isn't where they're created. But you were right about one thing, that this is a nest. I nodded at his explanation, but before I could ask anything, he continued. Anyway, I've been watching you since day one, and you've really surprised me. Your growth rate is phenomenal. I've never seen anyone advance this fast in my entire life, and I didn't expect you to make it this far. I thought you'd stay outside, waiting for more waves, but instead, you jumped straight in without hesitation. I'm not sure whether to call you brave or just an idiot. I replied, Commander, I was confident in my strength, so I suggest you stick with bravery. Arcas flicked me on the forehead. Cheeky brat, but I like how you fight and how fast you're improving. Of course, there's still a lot of work to do. You need to learn proper unarmed combat techniques, how to use a weapon, and then there's your class, laws, and 100 other things. He paused before adding, I even tried to contact your grandmother to get her opinion, but she rejected my meeting. My eyes widened. She rejected you? Why? Arcas shrugged. We don't exactly get along. She's the type who believes in strict military discipline. Me? I prefer freedom. So she basically told me that you can handle yourself, and that's that. I chuckled. Yeah, that sounds like her. Arcas placed a firm hand on my shoulder. His expression turned serious. Billion, you're already level 15. At this pace, you'll reach level 25 soon and gain your class. But here's the thing, I don't think this speed is enough. Every day we spend in the Eternals' captivity is a day they grow stronger. Every day our world remains weak is a day we risk being devoured by stronger worlds. We need people who can push past their limits, people who can reach their full potential as fast as possible. I nodded. I believe that too. I had no interest in taking things slow. I wanted to grow strong and grow strong fast. Arcus continued, his tone lowering. And so, I have a proposal for you. A path that, if you're not careful, could get you killed. But as long as you survive, you'll burn like a meteor, blazing, powerful, envied by all. And if you make it through, you won't just be the strongest in our world. You'll have a chance to grow beyond it. I blinked, my mind racing. I wondered what the hell was the bald demon planning. A plan that could either kill me or make me the strongest. I wasn't sure what that could be. So I asked, "What kind of proposal do you have, Commander?" Arcus nodded. "Before I tell you, do you remember how levels are divided into ranks?" I nodded. "Yeah, we learned it in the academy." And I explained to him what I knew. The system divided the levels into ranks. There were 3 ranks that we were taught at the academy. Mortal rank, level 0, 99. Master rank, level 100, 199. Grandmaster rank, level 200, 299. When a person gained their class, they also obtained the ability to use essence at some level, granting them powers related to elements and other natural laws. The major differences between ranks were also tied to essence. Mortal rank individuals could only use essence in limited quantities, either through their class skills or other specific skills. This stage served as their introduction to essence, allowing them to grasp its basic applications. But mortal ranks could never directly control essence. Upon evolving at level 100 and reaching master rank, everyone gains the essence stat, and their ability to sense and manipulate essence expands significantly. Master ranks could wield minor laws, integrating them into their combat style, skills, and even their class abilities. Grandmaster ranks possessed a deeper comprehension of minor laws than master ranks, capable of understanding and utilizing multiple minor laws at once. Our status only showed ranks after we gained a class. The strongest people in our world were Grandmasters. Even the Emperor was only Grandmaster rank. Arcus continued, "Right. Now, you must also understand that there are higher ranks beyond our world." Then he told me the ranks beyond Grandmaster rank. Transcendent rank, level 300, 499. Saint rank, level 500, 699. Demigod rank, level 700, 899. God rank, level 900, 1000. My jaw dropped. Demigod? God? What the fuck? Why would they use these names? Are they really that strong? I couldn't hold back my curiosity. God? Why call it that? Arcus smiled. Because they're like gods. So strong they could destroy our world with a flick of their hand. I stared. That strong? Do they actually exist? Arcus shook his head. We've only heard rumors. No one's ever seen one. But if the system exists, why not God-rank people? I swallowed. He wasn't wrong. Anyway, I have 2 reasons for telling you this. Arcus took a deep breath. First, no one in our world has ever crossed Grandmaster rank. It's too difficult. To become transcendent, you need strength, potential, and time. And by the time most of us reach the peak of Grandmaster, we're too old. He sighed, shaking his head. And the second reason I'm telling you this is because there was a time when none of us had ranks, only levels. The system never divided levels into ranks. Arcus' eyes narrowed. But then the Eternals came. His voice carried a weight that made me tense. We were shocked to discover that the Eternals had no levels, he continued. And even more shocked to learn they had no system at all. I froze. No system? No levels? That didn't make sense. Every awakened person in our world had the system. The system was the foundation of our strength, the very thing that dictated how we grew. And yet, the Eternals, the most powerful beings we had ever encountered, didn't have it. A chill ran down my spine. If they weren't bound by the same rules as us, then what kind of monsters were we really up against? Arcas pulled me out of my thoughts. But then something unexpected happened. The system updated itself and introduced ranks, and that's when we realized the Eternals already had ranks. No one, not even the people of the Prime Galaxy, had ever recorded an instance of the system updating itself. It was as if the system was adapting just to recognize their power. The system updated itself. That meant it wasn't some rigid, unchanging force like I had always believed. It was adaptable. The fact that it reacted to the Eternals meant it had the ability to evolve, to recognize something beyond our understanding and adjust accordingly. But what did that say about the Eternals themselves? Were they anomalies that even the system had to account for? Or was the system always meant to reveal deeper layers only when the right conditions were met? I looked at Arcas and asked, "But Commander, if they don't have a system, how do they progress and grow stronger?" Arcas exhaled, his gaze distant. "I'm not sure about the higher levels, but just like we awaken the system, they awaken an essence core when they're young. And to advance through the ranks, they refine and upgrade that core." An essence core? So they don't rely on levels or stats. They have their own way of growing stronger. That completely changed how I viewed them. If they weren't bound by the system, did that mean there was no limit to their strength? No predefined path to follow? It was unsettling. The system was something I had always relied on, something everyone relied on, but the Eternals had existed without it and thrived without it. Did the system actually hold us back? That thought unsettled me, and my brows furrowed. Arcas chuckled. "You're overthinking it. Don't start doubting the system." I stayed silent as he continued. "Now that you understand our ways of progressing are different, you should also realize something else. Both we and the Eternals have our own advantages, but the biggest advantage belongs to us because the more we kill, the stronger we become. We level up." "That is true." I nodded. Arcas continued. "Exactly. That's why the Eternals pulled back from the front lines. The more they fought us, the more our people died, but those who survived kept leveling up, growing stronger with each battle. They couldn't let that continue, and so unleashed the abominations and created the phantoms." I wondered. So that's why they pulled back. We actually forced them to retreat. And here I thought we were too weak to stop them. But then a thought struck me. "Commander, if they know we level up by killing, why release the abominations and phantoms? We gain levels from killing them too, right?" Arcas nodded. "You're right. But what you don't know, since you've never fought an Eternal yourself, is that every Eternal has an essence core. Because of this, one Eternal is equal to 4 or 5 abominations. Killing an Eternal could give you the essence equivalent of killing 4 or 5 abominations or phantoms. So instead of facing us directly and allowing us to grow stronger, they created abominations and phantoms to slow our progress." Arcas rubbed the scar on his face and spoke in a deep voice. "But this is also the truth. One-on-one, an Eternal is stronger than us because of that essence core. They have body refinement techniques and other methods that make their bodies far superior. If there was an Eternal standing here right now, at the same level as you, you'd be facing a tough challenge in a head-on fight." My eyes narrowed at that, but I was thinking of something else entirely. Wasn't I already like that? The system gave me 5 stat points per level, but my talent generator gave me even more. My stats were already higher than others at my level, and this gap would only grow wider as my talent evolved. Damn, I can't wait to smash some Eternals now. My generator against their essence core. Arcas continued. "Because they're stronger individually, we always fought them in numbers. And that's why we suffered countless casualties. Other than the Prime Galaxy, the rest of our universe is nothing but cannon fodder for the Eternals. If not for the Prime Galaxy and the powerful worlds within it, our universe would have been conquered long ago." He clenched his fist, gritting his teeth. "Even though people in our world see me as strong, a Grandmaster-ranked individual, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not even fit to be a pawn. I have no strength to change anything, no strength to fight back against the Eternals. And if you don't want to end up like me, like your grandmother, or even like our Emperor, you will need to push further than anyone. Face dangers that no one dares to face." and set your eyes on the prime galaxy. Reaching that place and carving a spot for yourself, that should be your true goal, not winning some pathetic competition. I stood there, silent, as Arcus's words sank deep into me. The sheer difference in strength between us and the Eternals. The reality that even a grandmaster like Arcus was nothing more than a pawn in this war. It made me realize how small I actually was. But strangely, I didn't feel fear. If anything, something inside me burned even brighter. The Prime Galaxy, the Essence Core, the path beyond Grandmaster rank. It was exactly what I was born for. To be above everyone else. That's the only way I can take revenge for my parents and end this farce once and for all. My fists clenched as I suppressed the energy bubbling inside me. My muscles burned with the urge to move, to hit, to destroy something. I couldn't hold it in any longer. "I'm sorry, Commander," I said, dropping into a squat. My mind kept drifting back to the Prime Galaxy. Another squat. How strong were the people there to defend an entire universe by themselves? Another squat. How strong were their talents? Their classes? Their skills? Another squat. I wanted to know. I needed to know. My eyes burned with excitement as I pushed myself again and again until Arcus's booming laughter snapped me out my thoughts. Ha ha ha. He placed a heavy hand on my shoulder, stopping me before I could drop into another squat. "I like you, Billion. We need hot-blooded men like you." He stepped back, creating some distance between us. Then, he raised his palm toward me. "I've already made up my mind about you the day you reached level 10, but I want to do one final test." His sharp gaze locked onto mine as he continued. "Hit me with your best shot. Use the skill you chose. If you pass, I'll give you a path that will make you the strongest person in our world. If you fail..." He smirked. "Well, you can continue being the strongest in Unit 02. He lowered his stance slightly, palm still raised. "It's up to you. Do you want to be the strongest in a unit or the strongest in this world?" My eyes burned with excitement. I've always loved tests. And why wouldn't I? I've crushed every single one so far. I clenched my jaw and stepped back. Taking a deep breath, I focused my thoughts on the upcoming tasks. I poured all the essence my generator core was producing straight into strength, temporarily boosting it by 6 points. My muscles tightened and compressed as raw power surged through me. I twisted my body, lowering my stance, and pulled my fist to my side, just like charging a blast. I activated my new skill, Seismic Fist. I felt it instantly. The strength flowed, rushing through my body, burning through my veins, and flooding into my right fist. I could feel strength increasing in my fist and my muscle straining. But I kept charging it, and I kept pushing more and more. Arcus narrowed his eyes as he felt the pressure rising around me. The world went silent for me, my focus entirely on the fist. Then I stepped forward. Boom! The ground beneath my feet exploded as I launched forward like a bullet, my fist tearing through the air and leaving a whistling sound behind. My punch collided with Arcus' palm, and the silence remained. There wasn't even a single change in his expression. To me, it felt like I had punched a void, something that swallowed my entire strength without a trace. I straightened up, locking eyes with him. Seconds passed. Then finally Arcus spoke. "Now that's what I'm talking about." I exhaled in relief, a smile creeping onto my face. He nodded. "Once again, you've exceeded my expectations, Billion. But this is good. Very good. I'm confident I'm making the right decision." Arcus looked at his palm, clenching and unclenching it a few times, nodding to himself as if confirming something. Then his gaze shifted back to me. "All right, here's the plan, Billion," he said. "Every month or two, I will personally assign you a mission. Over the 12 months of probation training, you must complete a minimum of 3 missions and a maximum of 6, all given directly by me. These missions will help you level up, grow stronger, and at the same time, expose you to the true nature of our world and universe. For the rest of the time, you will follow Unit 02's regular missions and schedule." I thought over his words and found no reason to refuse. If anything, this was exactly what I wanted. Arcus continued. "The higher your level gets, the slower your growth will become. At higher levels, you'll need to understand laws to advance. The faster you reach that point, the better. It'll give you more time to experiment with those laws before you hit the bottleneck. We'll talk more about them when you reach level 100. I nodded. The fastest way to level up is always by fighting enemies stronger than you, Arcus said. For now, I've decided your ideal level gap will be 5 levels. You'll fight enemies 5 levels higher than you. As you grow stronger, we'll either increase the gap or simply increase the number of enemies you face. He turned and glanced at the pulsing pods around us. I'll also allow you to fight phantoms before schedule. Normally, that's something we do at the end of probation, but we can speed that up. I'll also take you to specific abomination nests where you can fight against one type of abomination and develop your combat style around them. And finally, he looked back at me. I'll give you rare and powerful skills that normal soldiers don't have access to. Our goal will be to level up those skills as fast as possible, max them out, and evolve them. As for laws, we'll aim for the rarest and most destructive ones. But that can wait for now. I listened to Arcus's plan and couldn't help but feel a grin creeping up my face. I liked it. No, I loved it. Leveling up fast was exactly what I needed. The faster I pushed my attributes to their limit before reaching my class, the stronger my foundation would be. This level gap training was perfect for that. I nodded and asked, "All right, so when do we start?" Arcus smirked. "We start right now. You see all these pods? They're controlled by that abomination, and right now, that abomination is under my control. I'll start releasing stronger orcs, beginning from level 20. At first, 1 at a time, then 2, then more. The difficulty will keep increasing until the end of the month. You will stay here and fight alone. Kill fast, refine your skills, and level up. I'll see you at the end of the month. I have to oversee Unit 02. With that, Arcus gave me a nod and zoomed through the hole I had come from, leaving behind only a gust of wind. He was fast. So damn fast. I clenched my fists, excitement surging through me. I wanted to fly like that one day. But that could wait. Right now, I had orcs to kill. I rolled my shoulders and focused on the pods in front of me. Any moment now, I pulled up my status screen to take one last look. Status. Name, Billion Ironheart. Race, human. Class, not applicable. Laws, not applicable. Level, 15. Talent, Generator 2. Essence, 0 out of 10. Attributes, Strength, 45. Constitution, 33. Dexterity, 28. Synapse, 36. Unused stats, 0. Skills, Essence Manipulation, Innate, Level 2. Synapse Boost, Innate, Level 2. Seismic Fist, Level 1. The temporary strength boost was still active, and everything else looked perfect. My next goal was to experiment with Seismic Fist, this time trying to infuse essence into it. I also needed to level up my other 2 skills. And finally, I had to push my talent to the next level. I clenched my fists, feeling the energy surging through my body. It was time to begin. Stepping forward, I moved between the pods. But there was no movement, no orcs. I kept walking, crossing several lava pools as waves of heat pressed against my body. The air was thick with smoke and ash. Then I saw it. A half-burnt wooden board stuck in a lava pool with a single word carved on it, Start. Did Arcus leave this here? I glanced back at the sea of pods I had passed, and then turned my gaze forward. Cracked ground, lava flowing, smoke rising, heat burning the air, but no pods ahead, not on the ground or roof or the walls. Narrowing my eyes, I stepped past the board. I barely took a few steps when a lava pool in front of me began to bubble violently. A massive orc slowly emerged from the molten depths, steam rising off its charred skin. It wielded a giant club and glared at me with bloodthirsty eyes. I scanned it. Blazing Orc, level 20. Exactly as Arcus said. I exhaled slowly and dropped the 2 clubs I had been carrying. My muscles tensed as I shifted into my stance. I decided to go fists against the club. It was time to experiment with Seismic Fist. I activated my talent. Power up! My heart thumped violently, energy surging through my veins. I lunged forward, closing the distance between me and the orc in an instant. The orc swung its massive club horizontally. I ducked, feeling the wind graze my head as the club tore through the air. I stepped in and drove my fist into its ribs. The impact echoed with a dull thud, but the orc barely flinched. It retaliated with a downward swing. I crossed my arms to block, but the sheer force forced me back a couple of steps. I dashed to the orc's side and threw a right hook to its jaw. This time, my fist connected cleanly, twisting the orc's head. But before I could follow up, the orc roared and swung its arm like a hammer. I raised my forearm to block, but the impact sent me skidding back. My bones rattled from the force. Shit, its raw strength is insane. But I was faster. I charged again, weaving through its next strike and landing a clean punch to its stomach. The orc grunted, stumbling back a step, but recovered instantly and came at me again. We clashed head-on. Punches, blocks, dodges. The heat from the lava pools around us made it harder to breathe, but I kept pushing. The orc's strength was good for level 20, but I also had my increased stats for my talent. We fought like that for what felt like half an hour. Both of us landed hits. My breathing grew heavier, and the orc's movements slowed slightly, but its eyes still burned with rage. I checked my essence. Essence, 4 out of 10. I activated my skill. Synapse boost. Essence rolled into my heart and surged into my eyes, making them glow green. My vision sharpened, and time seemed to slow. The orc roared and lunged forward. I saw everything. The tension in its body, the shift in its stance, the subtle movement of its wrist before it swung the club. I sidestepped effortlessly and delivered a brutal elbow to its ribs. The orc stumbled to the side. I followed up with a swift kick to its knee, making it collapse slightly. Good. Now, let's push it further. I focused on my right arm and activated my skill. Seismic Fist. This time, I observed everything. I felt my muscles tense and coil like compressed springs. The strength within my body surged toward my right arm, flowing into my fist and locking there. The energy didn't explode out immediately. It condensed, sinking deeper into my muscles, veins, and bones. The moment I clenched my fist, I felt it, the power trembling, struggling to break free. The skill stored strength in my fist and then exploded it on contact. The orc lunged at me. I stepped forward and twisted my body, channeling everything into my punch. Boom! My punch struck the orc's chest, and the compressed force erupted on impact. A violent shockwave rippled through its body, cracking its chest from the inside and launching the orc several meters back. I slowly relaxed my fist, feeling the lingering tremors in my muscles from the punch. So that's how Seismic Fist works. It doesn't create power. It stores and compresses the existing strength inside the muscles. I looked at the orc struggling to stand up. Its chest caved in from the shockwave. My mind raced. I thought of 2 ways to incorporate essence in a Seismic Fist. First, essence reinforcement. By channeling essence to strengthen the muscle fibers before activating Seismic Fist, I could handle more compression and unleash greater power. The more I compress, the stronger the explosion. But there's a limit to how much my body can handle before tearing apart. Second, essence compression. I could wrap the compressed power with essence itself, creating a layer around the stored force to condense it further. This would multiply the destructive output, like compacting a bomb before detonation. However, controlling the explosion would be extremely difficult. If I failed to release it properly, I might end up shattering my own arm. I could inject essence at the moment of release to guide the shockwave and merge essence with it. Basically, releasing essence outside my body with the punch. This would allow better control over the force's direction and spread. I could focus all the force into a single point or spread it out in a wide area. I exhaled slowly. Both ideas seemed solid to me. But the second one, releasing essence outside the body, had the highest potential for unlocking better class options in the future. And I wanted that. So, I made my decision. Now, all that was left was to put the idea into practice. Finally, the orc stood up and limped toward me. The red glow in its eyes flickered. I stayed in place, waiting for the orc to reach me. My entire focus locked onto my fist. I activated Seismic Fist. Raw strength surged into my arm. Without missing a beat, I activated Essence Manipulation and channeled Essence toward my arm. Before the Essence could fully reach my fist, I burst forward, closing the distance in an instant. I bent low and aimed my punch at the orc's stomach. At the exact moment my fist was about to make contact, I forced Essence into my fist and triggered the explosion. Boom! Essence erupted along with the shockwave, completely obliterating the orc's upper body. Only 2 legs remained standing before they, too, crumbled to dust. I lowered my hand and looked at my fist. Blood dripped from my knuckles. I hadn't controlled the Essence properly. Even with Essence Manipulation active, my control wasn't precise enough. My knuckles burst, and a few veins ruptured as well. But I felt progress. I turned around and started walking forward, heading toward the next orc. Another lava pool bubbled, and an orc slowly emerged from it. I scanned it. Level 20. I allowed the orc to fully step out and get into position. The moment it did, I burst forward. Power surged through my body. Seismic Fist activated. Strength gathered into my arm. I channeled Essence into my fist, this time more careful with the flow and release. I focused on the raw power I could feel within my muscles and adjusted the amount of Essence accordingly. Right before impact, I triggered the explosion. My fist struck the orc's chest, and the combined shockwave and Essence burst forward, completely shattering the orc's upper torso. Dust scattered around me. I exhaled and looked at my fist again. This time, the damage wasn't as bad, but the skill wasn't perfect yet. The system hadn't acknowledged it as an evolved skill. I stepped forward, but the same lava pool bubbled once more. I frowned and took a step back, eyes narrowing as I waited. The surface of the pool rippled, and from within, another orc emerged. I scanned it. Level 21. Oh, so you're increasing the level now. The orc stomped forward, dragging its massive club along the cracked ground. I cracked my neck and raised my fists. This time, I didn't aim to kill in one hit. I needed to understand how Seismic Fist worked when combined with Essence. I had already felt the power when I released everything at once, but what if I controlled it? What if I compressed less strength, supplied less Essence, and slowed down the explosion? I activated Seismic Fist. Strength gathered in my arm, raw power flowing through my muscles and concentrating into my fist. I followed it immediately with Essence Manipulation, but this time I only channeled a thin stream of Essence into my arm. I dashed forward, avoiding the orc's downward swing and slipping to its side. I twisted my body and punched at its ribs. Boom! The shockwave burst out, but this time it didn't obliterate the orc's torso. Instead, the force sent it skidding several meters back, cracking the ground beneath its feet. The orc roared and charged at me again. Good. I adjusted the power, lowered the strength compression, and supplied a little more Essence this time. I dashed in again, dodging its wild swing and slamming my fist into its shoulder. Boom! Its massive body staggered, but it didn't break apart. Perfect. I grinned and kept going. We clashed again and again. For half an hour, I danced around the orc, refining my control over the skill with each punch. I activated Seismic Fist 8 times during the fight. That was my limit. I experimented with different variations. Compressing less strength, but supplying more Essence. Compressing more strength, and adding just a thin layer of Essence to control the shockwave. Injecting as much Essence as I could to burst outside. With each hit, I adjusted the balance between raw power and Essence infusion, slowly shaping the skill in real time. The orc's body cracked as I continued the relentless cycle of attacks. My fists burned, my arms ached, and Essence surged through my veins. But I was making progress. I could feel it, the fusion of Seismic Fist and Essence. I was getting closer to something entirely new. I exhaled and stepped toward the next orc. My body burned from the repeated clashes, but I felt it. I was close. The orc roared and stomped forward, lifting its club high. I activated Seismic Fist. Raw strength flooded my arm, surging toward my fist. I followed it with essence manipulation, carefully channeling just the right amount of essence to wrap around the compressed power. Not too much, not too little. This time, I focused on controlling the essence and guiding the shockwave instead of letting it burst out wildly. The orc swung its club down. I burst forward. Essence crackled inside my fist as I slipped past the club and closed the distance. My eyes locked onto its stomach. My body twisted, muscles coiling like a spring. And then I punched. At the moment of impact, I triggered the explosion. Boom! The shockwave erupted from my fist, but this time it didn't scatter in all directions. The essence controlled the explosion, focusing all that destructive force into a single point. My fist pierced through the orc's stomach like a bullet. The shockwave and essence blasted out from the back of its body, leaving a clean hole the size of my fist. The orc's eyes dimmed as its body crumbled into dust. I lowered my fist and stared at the spot where the orc once stood. My knuckles bleed slightly, but the damage was far less than before. I did it. Seismic fist perfectly merged with essence. I clenched my hand and felt the lingering power. This wasn't the same skill anymore. And I heard the notification. Skill evolved. Seismic fist dash seismic burst, level 1. I grinned and checked the skill's description. Seismic burst, an advanced technique born from the evolution of seismic fist. By merging compressed raw strength with essence, the user creates a controlled explosion that directs both shockwave and essence into a single point. The force is condensed within the muscles and guided by essence, allowing for devastating, pinpoint destruction. Doesn't this mean I don't need to rely only on my fists? Maybe I should try using my legs as well. And then another notification popped up. Level up. Level 15 dash level 16. I immediately allocated all 5 stat points to Synapse. I needed more control to push my skills further, especially Synapse Boost. I stopped and sat down on a rock. It burned against my skin, but I had no other option. The ground was scorching, and with my pants already torn, they wouldn't survive the heat. Maybe I should ask Arcus for some new pants, and now that I think about it, what about food? I shook my head, pushing the distracting thoughts away, and leaned back on the rock in silence. My body ached from the continuous use of seismic fist, and even my eyes throbbed slightly from activating Synapse Boost. My thoughts drifted to Unit 02. I couldn't check the rankings from here, so I had no idea how Steve or even North were doing. I smiled to myself, thinking about telling Steve about Arcus's plan. I knew I would grow stronger than the rest, but I didn't want Steve to fall too far behind. We'd have to come up with something for that. And then there was North. I had to make a plan for us two. I closed my eyes and let out a slow breath. For a moment, I just focused on the thumping of my heart. Level 16. I had 9 levels left. It felt close. Too close. If I kept going at this pace, I could reach level 25 before the month ended. But that wasn't enough. I didn't just want to reach level 25. I wanted to tear through it, break past the limit, and step into something beyond. A class that no one else in this world had ever seen before. An essence-based class. I clenched my fists. That was the goal. I needed more fights, more essence, and I needed to push essence manipulation to its limits. I glanced at my status. Essence manipulation, level 2. Seismic burst, level 1. Synapse boost, level 2. 3 essence-related skills. I was already halfway there. But another thought weighed heavily on my mind. What should I do about gaining stats without leveling up? My talent generator allowed me to absorb energy, convert it to essence, and directly transfer it to my attributes. And the best part, 20% of the essence would permanently fuse with my stats. If I kept doing that, I could push my stats insanely high before reaching level 25 and gaining my class. But that's exactly where the problem was. If I kept focusing on increasing my stats, I wouldn't be able to level up fast enough. And Arcus, he wanted me to reach level 25 as soon as possible. The longer I stayed here, the stronger I'd become, but I'd be wasting time. On the other hand, if I focused purely on leveling up, I'd miss the chance to push my body to its true limit. My eyes shifted toward the bubbling lava pool ahead. The orcs would keep coming stronger with each one, and I would keep breaking them, again and again. until this entire space acknowledged my existence. I stood up, cracking my neck. One more. I stepped forward, and the pool began to ripple. I sat near a lava pool, lost in my thoughts. I dipped my finger into the bubbling lava and watched it turn red hot before slowly returning to normal. My body was changing. Before awakening, this simple act would have melted my entire finger, but now, not even a scratch. A week has passed since I got here. At the end of the first day, Arcas came down and tossed me a military bag. It had food, water, and 2 more pairs of uniforms. I only wore pants. The shirt and boots? I tossed them aside. After that, Arcas did not visit again. I glanced at myself. My body was jacked, muscles defined and compressed, veins visible beneath the skin. I looked strong. In the past week, I only leveled up twice. I was level 18. After leveling up, I poured all my points into Synapse, reaching 51 points. And that completely screwed me over. The moment I crossed the 50 mark, something triggered inside my head. My entire brain felt like it was being restructured. I was about to go and find another orc when it happened. But the force of that change slammed me to the ground, forcing me to sit still for an hour. I've never heard of this happening to anyone else. My guess? It was because I crossed 50 points before acquiring my class. When the process finally ended, I realized I was utterly screwed. Everything around me rushed at me like a high-speed train. The smell of sulfur and burning lava. The sound of the volcano rumbling and the distant growls of orcs. Even the faint pulsing of the pods I left behind. I could hear it all. My eyes burned from the intensity of light and heat. I wasted 6 hours just sitting there, adjusting to my senses. It felt like I'd unlocked a cheat code, but my body wasn't ready for it. Even my thoughts ran at insane speeds now. And when I activated Synapse Boost, despite it being only level 2, it felt way stronger than before. Synapse Boost leveled up to level 3 right after that. I had to spend 2 entire days retraining my body, my fighting style, and even my skills to adapt. But I wasn't complaining. If Synapse had such an effect at 50 points, I wondered what would happen when I pushed my other attributes across the threshold. I yawned and stretched, the heat from the lava pool warming my bare back. 7 days in this burning pit. 7. I dipped my finger into the lava again, watching it sizzle and turn red hot before cooling down. My body was adapting. No burns, no pain, just raw heat flowing through my veins. Man, I'm becoming a monster. I leaned back, ignoring the fact that the heat was slowly cooking my pants. In the past week, I fought over many orcs, leveled up to 18, and somehow restructured my brain by pushing Synapse past 50 points, which, by the way, was the worst experience of my life. At this point, I might as well start living here. Maybe I'll build a small hut next to the lava pool. Call it the Orc Slayer's Retreat. Now I was just sitting here, letting my body recover from my previous fights. Next, I plan to work on the essence manipulation skill with the help of my increased Synapse. I dipped my finger in the pool again. This is exactly what I needed. I muttered to myself, wiggling my fingers in the molten lava. A little me time by a nice, relaxing pool of volcanic sludge. What could go wrong? I let out a satisfied sigh. Now that I think about it, this is my first personal vacation. Who needs a fancy vacation when you've got a magma pool in your backyard? It's all about the simple pleasures in life. I looked down at the pool, imagining it could hear me. Hey there, Mosby the magma pool, I said with a grin. How's it bubbling? No response. Silent type, huh? I chuckled. That's cool. I could do all the talking. You listen, Mosby. They say it's therapeutic to talk to yourself, you know? Good for the mind. I stretched out, the heat soothing my aching muscles. I must be the luckiest guy alive, I continued. Some folks pay good money for hot stone massages, but I've got the real deal right here. All natural, eco-friendly, and conveniently located. Suddenly a few bubbles popped in the lava. I pull my finger back, chuckling to myself. All right, I'll keep my fingers to myself. You're a tough crowd, Mosby, but I like you. Strong and silent, just the way I like my molten rock pools. I closed my eyes, letting my body relax against the heat. But the warmth, it reminded me of something. A memory. one buried deep within me. My 5th birthday. I remember sitting on my mom's lap in front of the fireplace in our small house. The flames crackled softly as my dad stood in the kitchen, trying to light the candles on my cake. "Damn, the candles are so weak," he muttered. "Language," my mom warned him with a serious face. "Right. Sorry. Damn, the candles are so weak, ma'am." I giggled as my mom ruffled my hair. My dad finally managed to light the candles, placing the cake in front of me. A simple chocolate cake. Small, but perfect. "All right, champ," Dad said, grinning. "Make a wish." I stared at the flickering flames on the candles. I remember feeling warm, safe, loved. I closed my eyes and made a wish. I wished to be strong, strong enough to make them proud, to be the strongest. I blew out the candles, and in that moment, the fireplace in front of us flickered, flames shooting higher. My mom and dad simply laughed, but I felt something, like the fire had responded to my wish. That was the last birthday I spent with them. 2 years later, they died, killed in action, and I was left with that wish, to be strong. I opened my eyes, staring at the bubbling lava pool in front of me. "I'm getting there," I whispered. Finally, I stood up. I checked my essence store. 10 out of 10. Full. I stepped back and found a relatively safe spot where my pants wouldn't turn to ash and sat down, crossing my legs. Taking a deep breath, I closed my eyes and focused inward. I directed my attention toward my heart, where the essence flowed. Last time, when I tried shaping the essence, I barely managed to form an uneven circle. But this time, I was sure I could do much better. I activated essence manipulation and slowly guided the essence through my body. Immediately, I felt the difference. My enhanced synapse allowed me to perceive the flow of essence with much greater clarity. It was like moving from blurry vision to crystal clear sight. Every thread of essence, every pulse, every ripple, I could feel it all. I nudged the flow, guiding it with ease. The resistance I felt before was almost non-existent now. The essence responded to my will, flowing smoothly through my veins. It felt natural. This was what I needed. Control, precision. But this wasn't enough anymore. I wanted more. I drew all the essence back toward my heart, my true generator core. I could feel the dense flow of essence pooling there, spinning and rotating like a small storm trapped within my chest. My breathing slowed as I focused. Move it. Shape it. I nudged the essence, slowly pushing the chaotic flow into a single point. The gaseous essence resisted, slipping and dispersing the moment I applied pressure. It was like trying to catch smoke with bare hands. I gritted my teeth. Again, I pulled the essence back and pushed it into the same point. This time, I applied more force, compressing it tighter. The essence trembled, vibrating violently, as if refusing to be contained. I kept going, forcing it into a smaller and smaller space, until something clicked. The essence shifted. It condensed slightly, becoming heavier, denser. I felt it slowly taking shape. A small, unstable orb formed at the very core of my heart. It was faint and trembling, like a newborn flame. I held my breath and pressed further, squeezing the essence tighter, compacting it from all sides. The gaseous energy around it swirled violently, pushing back against my control. But I didn't stop. I dragged more essence from my limbs and veins, feeding it into the core. The unstable orb grew denser, becoming more solid. It began to float. The raw, violent essence slowly turned smoother, more stable. I could feel it now. A small, semi-solid sphere of essence floating inside my heart. It wasn't perfect yet, but it was there. The remaining gaseous essence surrounded the semi-solid sphere. I opened my eyes, sweat dripping down my face. My heart was beating stronger than ever, but now there was something else inside. Suddenly, the system went ding, and I saw the notification. Skill level up. Essence manipulation. Level 2, level 3. I ignored the message and checked my essence store. 7 out of 10. I narrow my eyes. I hadn't used any essence, so where did the extra space come from? Focusing on the semi-solid sphere, I willed it to dissolve back into its gaseous form. The essence dispersed, and I checked the store again. 10 out of 10. A grin spread across my face. A hack. I call that a hack. A cheat in my talent. My mind raced with the thoughts of this new discovery. By compressing the gaseous essence into a denser, semi-solid form, I freed up space in the store. The actual amount of essence remained the same, but by condensing a portion of it, the system registered the extra space. So, if I kept compressing more essence, I could keep freeing space and storing far beyond the limit. My heart pounded with excitement. I closed my eyes and activated essence manipulation again. Slowly, I gathered the essence flowing inside my heart core. The familiar hum of energy filled me as I focused on compressing the essence once more. It resisted at first, slipping through my mental grip like smoke. But I kept pushing, applying pressure from all sides. The gaseous essence began to swirl, tightening, twisting into itself. My heart thumped in sync with the essence's movement, and finally, it compressed into a smooth, semi-solid sphere. I checked the store. 7 out of 10. It worked. I grinned wider. This wasn't just a hack. This was my path forward. If I could keep compressing and stacking essence like this, I wouldn't need to worry about running out of space. I could absorb way more energy, increase my stats without leveling up, and push my talent to evolve faster. I had another thought. I focused on the semi-solid sphere of essence and tried to channel it out of the heart to circulate it through my body. But the moment it was about to leave, it dispersed back into its gaseous form. All right, not an issue. I just need to compress it better. I understood then. I was close, but not quite there yet. If I could level up essence manipulation one more time, I'd be able to compress the essence further and maintain its solid state while moving it through my body. I stretched and stood up. It was time to get back to work. Fight, kill, and level up. I moved forward and soon came across another lava pool. It bubbled for a moment before 2 orcs emerged from it. I scanned them, both level 24. I cracked my neck and stepped forward. I whispered, "Power up." My generator core activated and it started absorbing energy. I welcomed it. The 2 orcs, both towering over me at level 24, grinned viciously as they stepped out of the bubbling lava pool. Their muscles bulged, and their molten weapons dripped with heat. I was only level 18, but that didn't matter. I charged forward. The first orc swung its massive club horizontally. I ducked under it and closed the distance, driving a punch into its ribs. My fist connected with a dull thud, barely making the orc flinch. The second orc roared and brought down its club from above. I rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding having my skull crushed. Before I could recover, the first orc's foot crashed into my side, sending me flying across the rocky ground. My body skidded against the burning stone, but I clenched my teeth and stood up. I felt the energy from their attacks being absorbed into my body, generating essence inside my core. I moved in again, dodging and weaving between their strikes, but their coordination was brutal. One attacked high, while the other aimed low. A fist slammed into my stomach, followed by a club strike to my back that sent me face first into the ground. Blood dripped from my mouth as I pushed myself up. All right, enough warm-up. I activated Synapse Boost. In an instant, the world sharpened. The fast, heavy movements of the orcs became clearer, almost sluggish. The first orc lunged at me, swinging its heavy club. This time, I stepped to the side with ease, letting the weapon pass harmlessly. I countered with a sharp elbow to its jaw and followed up with a knee to the gut, making the orc stumble back. The second orc rushed in with its club, aiming for my head again. I sidestepped and slammed a punch into its ribs, making it buckle. My movements flowed, precise and efficient. But I needed more. I activated essence manipulation. The essence within me stirred and flowed through my muscles, enhancing my strength and speed. I felt the energy surging through my veins. I waited for the right moment. The first orc roared and charged at me, raising its weapon high. I dashed forward, closing the distance faster than the orc expected. My hand clenched into a fist as I activated the skill. Seismic burst. I slammed my fist directly into the orc's abdomen. The compressed strength, combined with the essence-infused shockwave, exploded on impact. A concentrated burst of energy shot out from my fist, punching a hole through the orc's stomach. The creature staggered back, but I didn't give it time. My legs bent as I jumped upward, my body rotating, and my leg shot forward, severing the orc's neck from its head. The second orc roared in fury and swung its club with full force. I twisted my body to avoid the strike and launched a kick to its ribs, sending it stumbling to the side. I surged forward, pouring more essence into my arm. Seismic burst. My fist crashed into the second orc's chest, sending a shockwave that cracked its ribs and sent it flying backward. The orc collapsed with a heavy thud. I dashed forward, closing the distance before it could react. With one final seismic burst, I drove my fist into its skull. The shockwave shattered its head from the inside. The orc's massive body crumbled to the ground. I exhaled slowly. Level difference? Didn't matter. I turned around and walked forward. The semi-solid sphere I created earlier was giving me new ideas. Would it be possible for me to push essence out of my body and use it to fight? I was already doing that when I used seismic burst, but that was more like an uncontrolled explosion. What I wanted was control. The ability to shape the essence outside my body and use it however I wanted. Maybe coat my fist in essence, or create an essence bomb. My mind spun with possibilities. And then there was my talent itself. I needed to speed up the leveling process of generator. That required absorbing as much energy as possible and generating more essence. Suddenly, my feet stopped. This thought had been lingering in my head for days, but now it was time to act. Leveling up could wait. I scanned the area and found the largest lava pool I could. Without hesitation, I started walking toward it. The moment I reached the edge, two orcs, both level 24, crawled out of the molten surface. Unlucky for them, I activated both essence manipulation and synapse boost, and within a minute, their bodies hit the ground, lifeless. I heard the notification this time. Level up. Level 18-level 19. I ignored the newly gained stats for now and stepped closer to the pool. The heat distorted the air around me. Waves of pure energy radiating from the molten rock. My plan was simple: absorb the energy directly from the lava and generate essence. I've been passively absorbing heat energy this whole time. This entire volcano was a generator, a heat generator. And instead of relying on passive absorption, I was going to forcefully draw in the energy and level up generator before hitting level 25. I closed my eyes and pushed almost all my stored essence into Constitution to handle the temperature. My muscles tensed as my body adapted. My skin flushed red, veins pulsing as my cells absorbed the raw heat from the environment. I stepped closer and knelt down near the pool. The heat was unbearable. Even with my Constitution boosted, the sheer pressure of the temperature made my skin tingle and my muscles tighten. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes before slowly dipping my entire arm into the molten lava. Pain exploded through my nerves. It wasn't the kind of pain that would burn my flesh off. My body was far beyond that now, but it was raw. The sensation of my skin being cooked alive still reached my brain, like thousands of tiny needles piercing my arm at once. The lava wasn't just liquid fire. It was dense, filled with violent energy particles, constantly colliding and releasing heat. I clenched my jaw and focused. My mind zoomed in on my core. I activated Synapse Boost, and my will stretched out, connecting with the energy around me. I could feel it now. The heat wasn't in the molten rock itself. It was in the vibrating particles of the lava. Tiny, microscopic movements that released energy every time they collided. I locked onto those particles, guiding them with my will. Slowly, I pulled them inside my body. The particles resisted at first, wild and chaotic, but my increased synapse helped a lot. As soon as the particles entered my body, I activated essence manipulation and wrapped my essence around them, forcing them into submission, and dragged them through my body toward my heart. The moment the energy entered my core, I felt it. The generator core worked to turn the energy into essence. Pure, unfiltered energy flooding into my core, converting into essence. 1 unit. But I felt the pain from the heat too. My arm burned, the skin turning red as the lava tried to eat away at it. My core worked to absorb the energy, and I could feel the heat around my hand gradually decreasing, but it was still unbearable. I gritted my teeth and endured it. 2 units. My essence store began filling up. 3 units. 4 units. I pulled my arm out. I gasped for air, my breath shaky as I looked at my arm. It was completely red, and blisters had already formed in some areas. The pain was horrendous, crawling up my nerves and drilling into my bones. But I forced myself to focus. I transferred almost all of the newly gained essence into the constitution. The burning sensation dulled slightly, and the redness began to heal at a visible speed. My muscles relaxed, but I didn't allow myself to rest. Gritting my teeth, I stepped forward and dipped my other hand into the lava. The pain struck again, burning through my nerves. A little less than before, but still unbearable. I activated Synapse Boost, pushing my senses to the limit and focusing on the particles within the lava. In my vision, they swirled crimson in color, radiating intense light and heat. Forcing my will onto them, I dragged them toward me. The particles entered my body, and I immediately channeled essence to guide them straight into the generator core inside my heart. Again and again, I repeated the process, absorbing as much as I could while my body screamed in agony. When my essence store hit 5 units, I yanked my hand out and collapsed onto the ground, breathing heavily. I blew on my hand instinctively to cool it down, knowing full well it wouldn't help. The skin was bright red, almost charred. Damn it, that hurts. It did, but I grinned. In such a short time, I had generated so much essence. My theory worked. It was time to go all out. First, I needed to push my constitution to a point where the heat wouldn't hurt me as much, allowing me to absorb energy continuously. I also knew that my core couldn't handle nonstop absorption. The longer I used it, the more it felt like my heart would explode. To prepare for the absorption marathon I was about to begin, I dumped all 5 of my unused stat points into Constitution. Then I channeled the newly generated essence into Constitution as well. I clenched my fists as the familiar sensation of my body strengthening flooded through me. My skin tightened, my muscles compacted, my bones felt denser, and the burning pain, it dulled. Not gone, but manageable. All right, I whispered to myself, cracking my neck as I stood up and faced the pool once more. Let's break this damn volcano. I pulled my talent panel to check the progress. Talent. Talent name, generator. Function, generates essence from absorbed energy. Level 2, essence, 1/10 units. Level up requirement, 200 units of essence generated. Progress, 145 out of 200. Talent upgrade requirement, talent level 5. Generator activation command, power up. Recharge sources, any form of energy. Abilities, essence transfer, can transfer stored essence to an attribute. After use, 20% of the transferred essence unit remains as a permanent boost. Essence infusion, can infuse stored essence. 145/200. That's where my progress sat. I nodded to myself. If I kept absorbing energy and took breaks in between to let the core rest, I should be able to push it to 200 in a day or two. I stepped back from the lava pool and sat down on the rocky ground, letting my body recover. The heat from a volcano pressed against my skin, but my boosted constitution was already working to heal the burns and fatigue. I stayed in that position for an hour, allowing my muscles to relax and my core to stabilize. Once I felt ready, I stood up and walked toward the pool again. This time, I didn't use my hands. Instead, I sat down at the edge and dipped both my legs into the bubbling lava. The molten sludge swallowed my legs up to the knees, and instantly, the burning pain flared up again. My skin felt like it was melting off my bones, but I gritted my teeth and focused. I closed my eyes and activated my talent. Focus. Feel the energy in the lava. Pull the particles. Guide them to the core using essence. And let the generator do its work. I repeated the process over and over, absorbing the heat energy and converting it into pure essence. My core worked tirelessly, generating unit after unit of essence while I endured the scorching agony. 3 hours passed like this. But this time, I didn't pull out my legs after every few units. I waited until my essence store hit full capacity, then I would move out and channel all the units into Constitution. After resting for some time, I would immediately begin absorbing again, and again, and again. By the time I finally pulled my legs out of the lava, my Constitution had crossed 50 points temporarily all 3 times. But nothing changed. Unlike when I hit 50 in Synapse and it restructured my brain, this time there was no such thing. My guess. It only worked when I permanently crossed the threshold, not when I temporarily pushed my stats with Essence Infusion. I checked my status. Constitution, 49. One more point. Just one more. Deactivating my talent, I stepped away from the pool and opened my bag. I pulled out some dried meat and bread, sat down on a rock, and quietly ate. My legs were still burning, the skin scalded and red, but I ignored the pain. This was nothing. I drank some water, finished my food, and closed my eyes. I needed my body to recover before the next round. So I meditated. For 2 full hours, I focused on calming my mind and focused on the jumping crimson particles around me. After checking the condition of my body and confirming it was in good enough shape, I stood up and whispered, "Power up!" My talent activated. I felt the generator core inside my heart begin to heat up as it focused on absorbing energy once again. But this time, I didn't step into the lava pool. I closed my eyes and extended my senses outward, activating Synapse Boost to heighten my perception. The world around me slowed, and in my perception, I could see them. Tiny crimson particles. Heat energy. They floated in the air, drifting lazily around me, radiating intense light that only I could perceive through my senses. I reached out with my will and guided them toward my body. Slowly, carefully. The particles resisted at first, but I kept pulling, using my essence to direct them toward my heart. The moment they touched the generator core, they were sucked in, and the core worked on converting the energy into essence. 1 unit. It took me around 3 to 4 minutes to generate the first one. I kept at it, focusing, absorbing, converting, unit after unit. By the time half an hour passed, I had filled my essence store with 5 units. Without hesitation, I pushed all 5 units into the Constitution. I felt my body harden from the inside, my muscles tightening, my skin becoming more resistant, and my cells adapting to the intense heat around me. My Constitution temporarily surged to 54. And finally, my Constitution increased permanently by 1. A grin spread across my face as I checked my status. Constitution 50. The moment I crossed the threshold, a strange sensation spread through my body. My core pulsed once, then twice, and before I could even react, an uncontrollable heat surged through my veins. I staggered, barely managing to sit down on the rocky ground before my body completely locked up. The pain came next. It wasn't the burning pain from the lava. No, this was something far deeper. It felt like every cell in my body was being torn apart and reforged from the inside out. I gritted my teeth, refusing to scream as my muscles tensed and veins bulged out under the pressure. My skin heated up, turning slightly red as steam began rising off my body. I could feel the heat energy I had absorbed from the lava spreading through my flesh, melting away the imperfections and rebuilding me from the ground up. I clenched my fists as my veins glowed faintly with a crimson hue. The generator core in my heart spun wildly, absorbing essence directly from the atmosphere and distributing it through every inch of my body. My muscles grew denser. My bones hardened. My skin thickened, becoming more resistant to extreme temperatures. But that wasn't all. My internal organs began adapting as well. My lungs adjusted to filter out the scorching air around me, allowing me to breathe in high-temperature environments without burning my throat. My blood flow slowed slightly, becoming more efficient in carrying energy throughout my body. Even my nerves dulled the sensation of heat, allowing me to function under intense pressure without breaking focus. I could feel my body adapting to the situation around me. Something built to survive in fire, to thrive in it. The lava pool beside me bubbled and churned, radiating intense heat, but for the first time, I didn't feel overwhelmed by it. I felt comfortable. The heat wrapped around me like a warm blanket, no longer burning, no longer unbearable. As the process slowly came to an end, I exhaled heavily, steam escaping from my mouth. I stood up and did a couple of squats, stretching my body a little to get a feel for the change. Closing my eyes, I focused inward and observed my body. It was an upgrade for sure. My stats hadn't increased, but my base body had been reforged, which in return gave more value to my existing stats. I had expected to gain a boost in stats, but maybe there was something else at play. I could feel it in the way my muscles moved, the way my breath flowed more naturally, and how the heat around me didn't feel as unbearable anymore. I focused on the crimson particles in the air. When they drifted near me, they felt gentler, less violent, and if I didn't want to absorb their heat, I could simply let them pass by. I opened my eyes and looked at the lava pool again. 2 of my stats had crossed the 50-point threshold, Constitution and Synapse. The next closest was Strength, sitting at 43. Just 7 more points to hit the threshold. But before that, my talent was only 20 units of essence away from leveling up. That was my next goal. Without hesitation, I moved toward the lava and stepped directly into the pool. The heat immediately wrapped around me. My skin burned, and the sensation of molten rock pressing against my flesh was still painful, but it wasn't unbearable. I could withstand it. I walked deeper slowly and sat down cross-legged inside the pool. Closing my eyes, I activated my talent. The generator core inside my heart roared to life. I focused on it and began pulling the heat particles from the lava around me, guiding them into the core. Time passed as I fell into a steady rhythm, absorbing energy, converting it into essence, and adding it to strength. 10 units. I immediately pushed all of them into strength and continued absorbing more. Another 10 units. And the moment I reached the limit, my heart thumped violently. A heavy pulse echoed through my chest as the essence inside me stirred uncontrollably. My eyes snapped open as I hurriedly stood up and leapt out of the lava pool. My body was glowing red-hot, steam rising from my burned skin, but I ignored the pain and focused on the notification that appeared before me. Requirement completed. Talent leveling up. Suddenly, the essence around me surged toward my core. But this time, something different happened. Along with the essence, I felt traces of heat particles being sucked into the core as well. I closed my eyes and stayed perfectly still. My heart heated up, its frantic beating hammering against my chest. The process continued for about 2 minutes, the sensation intense, but not unbearable. Then just as suddenly as it started, everything settled. Talent level up. Generator 2, Generator 3. I exhaled and excitedly pulled up the talent panel to check the changes. Talent. Talent name, Generator. Function, generates essence from absorbed energy. Level 3, Essence, 10/20 units. Level up requirement, 400 units of essence generated. Progress, 0 of 400. Talent upgrade requirement, talent level 5. Generator activation command, power up. Recharge sources, any form of energy. Abilities, essence transfer, can transfer stored essence to an attribute. After use, 30% of the transferred essence unit remains as a permanent boost. Essence infusion, can infuse stored essence. Particle absorption, can directly absorb energy particles from the environment. I stood silently, my body still hot from absorbing energy from the lava pool. I focused on the generator core inside me and carefully examined the changes. At level 2, the generator could absorb energy through physical effort. The more I moved, the more energy I generated. Fighting, running, or using a skill like Seismic Burst allowed me to absorb the energy released during impact. But that process was slow and limited. Now it was different. I closed my eyes and focused on my core. The generator, It pulsed in sync with my heartbeat, but this time there was something different, something new. I activated the talent. Power up. The familiar hum spread through my body, but as I focused, I sensed it. Particles, tiny crimson dots of heat energy, floating in the air around me. They shimmered in my senses, moving lazily through the atmosphere. I raised my hand and focused on them. The moment I willed them toward me, they responded. Slowly at first, then faster, the particles began flowing into my body, sinking into my skin and rushing toward the core. I felt them being broken down, converted into essence, and stored within me. 1 unit, and that too within 3 minutes. My eyes widened. I hadn't even moved. No fighting, no running, no physical effort. I was absorbing energy directly from the environment. Of course, the availability of so much heat energy allowed for fast absorption, but it still worked effortlessly for me. Before, I had to create energy through action. But now, I could absorb energy directly from the environment. This was the real difference between level 2 and level 3. It wasn't just an increase in capacity or speed. It was a change in how the generator functioned. At level 2, I was like a machine that converts fuel into essence. At level 3, I became a magnet, directly pulling energy from the world itself. And there was something else. At level 2, when I transferred essence to my stats, only 20% remained as a permanent boost. But now, it was 30%. That meant, with every 10 units of essence I absorbed, 3 units would permanently stay in my stats. My growth rate just increased. Not only could I generate essence faster, but the permanent boost I gained from each transfer was now higher. And lastly, the capacity, from 10 units to 20. In short, everything improved. I exhaled slowly, feeling my body already adapting to the heat around me. I wondered if this was only level 3. What the hell would happen when I reached level 5? I stood at the edge of the lava pool, feeling the intense heat radiating against my skin. This changes everything. I activated Synapse Boost, enhancing my perception. The world around me slowed, and suddenly, I could sense more than just heat. The wind carried tiny kinetic particles, faint traces of electricity crackled in the air, and deeper underground, I could feel the vibrations of the earth itself. But I couldn't absorb those. Not yet. But the heat. I was already standing inside a massive energy source. The volcano itself was a generator pumping endless heat into the air. And now, with particle absorption, I could directly pull that energy into my core without lifting a single finger. A grin spread across my face. I stretched my hand toward the lava pool again, focusing entirely on the heat particles. They rushed toward me, faster this time, flowing through my veins and into the core. The generator roared to life, devouring the energy and converting it into pure essence. In just 25 minutes, I had generated 10 units of essence. I exhaled slowly, feeling the heat around me grow weaker as I drained it from the atmosphere. My body, it was adapting. The generator core wasn't just absorbing energy anymore. It was naturally pulling particles toward me, as if my very presence was beginning to influence the environment. My essence store was full again, and I only needed 5 points for strength to hit 50. If I added all 20 units to strength, it would permanently increase by 6 points and reach the threshold. But I needed a break. My body felt completely done for the day. I sat down, ate some food, drank some steaming water, and went to sleep. The next time I woke up, I had no idea whether it was day or night outside. I was inside a damn volcano, deep underground. After finishing my daily routine, I decided to do a little fighting to warm myself up before pushing my strength past the 50 threshold. I moved toward the next target. Reaching another lava pool, I watched as the surface bubbled and 2 orcs walked out. I scanned them, and both were level 24. I cracked my neck and stepped forward. This fight was going to be too easy. I stood there, relaxed, my feet sinking slightly into the heated ground as the 2 orcs emerged from the lava pool. Their bodies radiated intense heat, molten red skin pulsing with magma beneath the surface. Jagged rock-like protrusions jutted from their shoulders and backs, and the massive clubs in their hands glowed with cracks of molten energy, spikes dripping with heat. I exhaled slowly, rolling my shoulders. My body felt light, yet dense. My constitution had crossed the 50 threshold, and my strength was nearing it as well. These orcs, despite being level 24, didn't feel like a threat anymore. This fight wasn't about winning. It was about testing my body. Come, I whispered. The orcs roared in unison and charged forward, clubs raised high. I didn't move. My muscles tensed slightly, but I left my stance open, intentionally allowing the first attack to land. The one on the left swung horizontally, aiming straight for my shoulder. I braced myself and let it hit. The molten club crashed against my shoulder with a heavy thud, sending a shockwave through my body. The ground beneath me cracked from the force. Pain surged through my arm, burning hot and dull, but it was manageable. My skin didn't split. My bones didn't crack. I smiled. I had tanked that. The orc looked surprised for a moment, but I stepped forward before it could react. My left hand shot out and grabbed the handle of the club, stopping it mid-swing. The heat from the molten cracks burned into my palm, but I ignored it. Not bad, I muttered. The second orc swung from above, aiming for my head this time. I let go of the first orc's club and raised my forearm above my head. The club descended and smashed directly onto my hand. A loud, echoing crack filled the air. The ground beneath me cratered slightly, but I remained standing. My hand throbbed for a moment, but that was it. My body absorbed the impact, the enhanced constitution handling the force with ease. I tilted my head side to side and grinned. Solid, I murmured. The orcs roared in frustration and swung again, one aiming for my ribs, the other for my legs. I let them. The first club slammed into my side, and I felt my ribs bend slightly, but not break. The other struck my quads, and the force spread through my muscles, but I remained rooted. My body was adapting to the heat and impact. My muscles tightened. My skin thickened. Even the magma-infused clubs couldn't pierce me. I stepped forward and drove my elbow into the first orc's face. Its molten skin cracked slightly as its head snapped back. The second orc tried to swing again, but I caught the club with one hand. My grip tightened, and the molten spikes dug into my palm, but I ignored the pain. I yanked the orc forward and headbutted directly in the face. My skull met its molten forehead with a sickening crack. The orc's face caved in slightly as magma leaked from its mouth and nose. I released the club and stepped back. The orc staggered but didn't fall. They were tough, and I needed that. I raised my arms slightly, inviting them to attack again. Come on, I'm not done testing yet. They roared and charged again. This time, I let them strike my back. One club slammed into my spine, while the other smashed into my side. I only skidded back, and that was it. My muscles flexed, absorbing the force. My internal organs didn't rupture. My bones didn't crack. I grinned wider. I shifted my weight, burst forward, and kicked the first orc in the gut. My foot sank into its molten flesh, sending it flying backward. The second orc swung again, but I caught the club midair and yanked it out of its grip. Let me try something. I flipped the club in my hand and swung it with all my strength, smashing it directly into the orc's face. The molten spikes dug into its skull, cracking it open as magma leaked out. The orc stumbled but didn't fall. Damn, tough bastard. The first orc charged back toward me. I tossed the club aside and met it head-on. This time, I didn't hold back. I stepped forward and slammed my fist into its chest. My essence-infused strength sent shockwaves through its molten body, shattering the rock-like protrusions on its back. The orc coughed out magma and collapsed to its knees. The second orc swung its claws at me in desperation, but I ducked and drove my knee into its chin. Its head snapped back violently, and I followed up with a heavy punch to its throat. It staggered. I activated essence manipulation and channeled essence into my arms. I grabbed the orc's arm and let out a low roar as I lifted its massive body off the ground. With a swift spin on my heels, I swung the orc and slammed it down onto the other one that was kneeling. Their bodies collided with a heavy bang, and the arm I was holding twisted unnaturally before completely snapping from the shoulder. I stepped forward without hesitation and brought my foot down, crushing their skulls and ending them both in an instant. Silence filled the air. I stood there, steam rising from my skin as the lava bubbled quietly around me. I felt strong. Now only two things were left on my to-do list. First, increase strength to 50. And finally, push my level as high as possible. I was getting closer to level 25, and I liked it. I let out a slow breath and sat down right where I stood. Without hesitation, I transferred all 20 units of essence into strength. My stat jumped up, permanently crossing the 50-point threshold. And then I waited, and waited. Then it happened. A strange tremor ran through my muscles. My arms twitched. My legs tightened. My chest felt like it was caving in for a moment before something inside me snapped and released. Suddenly, an intense surge of heat spread through my body. But unlike before, this wasn't from the environment. It came from within. My muscles began to swell and pulse as if each fiber was breaking down and rebuilding itself. I felt the tendons in my arms stretch and harden, becoming denser, tougher. The bones beneath cracked softly, not from breaking, but from compacting, reinforcing themselves to handle the new strength coursing through them. I clenched my fists, and I could feel the raw power humming beneath my skin. My veins bulged slightly, filled with energy that felt almost electric. My back stretched as if new layers of muscle were forming along my spine, wrapping around my core and strengthening my balance. Even my legs, which had already adapted to the heat of the lava, felt sturdier, as if they could crush the ground beneath them with a single stomp. I raised my arm and flexed my fingers. My grip felt unnatural, tighter, stronger, as if I could crush stone with ease. I stood up and took a step forward. The ground felt soft beneath my foot. I grinned. Unlike Constitution, which rebuilt my body from the inside out to handle more damage, strength was different. It felt violent. It felt raw. It was built to deal more damage. This wasn't an upgrade to survive. This was an upgrade to destroy. But again, there was no change in the stats itself, despite me feeling much stronger than I should be at 50 points. I stretched my neck, feeling the new power flowing through every inch of me. My body had evolved to handle the sheer force my muscles could now produce. My bones, joints, and tendons had reinforced themselves, preventing my body from tearing itself apart under my own strength. I clenched my fist again and punched the ground lightly. The solid black rock shattered like fragile glass. A chuckle escaped me. I felt unstoppable, but I knew this was only the beginning. I turned toward the next lava pool, my body practically begging for another fight. And I moved forward. This time, 3 orcs emerged from the magma pool, all level 24. I cracked my neck and smiled. This time, I wasn't here to test my body. I wanted to check my damage. I let the orcs step out of the pool. The moment their molten red feet touched solid ground, I stomped my foot and burst forward, the rock beneath me cracking from the force. In an instant, I was in front of the first orc. I pulled my fist back and punched straight at its chest. The air screamed as my fist tore through it and smashed into the orc's body. Boom! The orc's entire upper body exploded into chunks of molten flesh and rock. Its lower half stood for a moment before collapsing into the ground with a dull thud. I blinked, staring at the result. Well, that was easy. I wasn't expecting that. My strength had increased too fast. I couldn't control it properly. I slowly turned toward the other 2 orcs. All right, kids, let's try that again. The orc on the left roared and swung its massive club at me. I tilted my head slightly, letting the molten weapon pass over me. Don't you guys have any other moves? I stepped into its guard and casually slapped the orc across the face. Crack! Its head snapped to the side, but the damn thing survived. Nice! Now that feels good. Suddenly, I sensed movement behind me. Without looking, I sidestepped. A massive club smashed into the ground where I had been standing. The impact sent cracks, spider webbing, through the black stone. I turned to see the third orc, its glowing eyes burning with rage. I raised my leg and kicked its chest. The orc flew back like a rag doll and crashed against the jagged rocks. I turned back to the orc I slapped. With a quick step forward, I drove my elbow straight into its chest. The force sent it stumbling backward, wheezing. Before it could recover, I lunged forward, grabbed its face, and slammed its head into the magma pool it crawled out from. The orc thrashed and roared, but I didn't let go. I yanked it back up by the leg and smashed it back into the pool. Then again, and again. On the fourth slam, the orc's body disintegrated, and only its leg remained in my grip. I stared at the leg for a moment before tossing it aside. I turned toward the last orc. It sprinted toward me, rage burning in its eyes. I grinned and sprinted toward it as well. My body felt light. My muscles coiled with power. I was finally getting used to this strength. I sprinted toward the final orc, the ground cracking beneath my feet as I closed the distance. The orc roared, lifting its molten club high, preparing to bring it down on me with all its strength. I didn't slow down. At the last moment, I burst forward and reached the orc before it could bring the club down. I clenched my fist and drove an uppercut straight into its gut. Boom! The force of my punch lifted the orc off the ground. It bent at the waist and flew straight up with a whoosh. I shot up like a bullet, following it into the air. Before the orc could react, I brought my hand together, raised them high up, and like a hammer, smashed them into the orc. The orc flew down like a meteorite and crashed into the ground. Boom! The impact created a massive crater, and the orc's molten body split apart from the force. Smoke and dust rose around me as I landed in the crater. My body felt light. My muscles felt explosive. I looked at my hand. Yeah, this feels good. Then I heard the notification. Level up. Level 19 dash level 20. I smiled and opened up my status panel. Status. Name, Billion Ironheart. Race, human. Class, not applicable. Laws, not applicable. Level, 20. Talent, Generator 3. Essence, 0/20. Attributes, Strength, 51. Constitution, 50. Dexterity, 32. Synapse, 51. Unused stats, 5. Skills, Essence Manipulation, Innate, Level 3. Synapse Boost, Innate, Level 3. Seismic Burst, Level 1. I added all the unused stats to Dexterity, raising it to 37. I decided not to waste any more time. My body felt stronger than ever, and my strength was overflowing. I could feel the changes after crossing the 50-point threshold in strength. My muscles felt dense, heavy, yet explosive. Every movement felt sharper, faster, more precise. I stepped forward and kept moving deeper into the volcano, eager to push myself further and level up as much as possible. At the next lava pool, 3 more orcs emerged, all level 24. I didn't even hesitate this time. I stepped forward, dodged the first swing, shattered the first orc's head with a single punch, then grabbed the second orc and slammed it into the third, breaking both their bodies in one go. I moved forward again, reaching the next pool. This time 4 orcs climbed out. Level 24, same as before. The fight was a little trickier since they surrounded me, but with my new strength, they couldn't keep up. I let them attack first, tanked their hits to test my defense, then broke through their formation with raw force. My fists crushed bones, my kicks shattered limbs, and in less than 2 minutes, all 4 were dead. I sat down near the pool and activated my talent. The generator core inside my heart roared to life, pulling in the heat particles around me and converting them into essence. I focused, guiding the flow of energy into the core, filling up my essence store in an hour. My essence bar was full again. 20/20ths. I stood up, stretched my body, and kept moving forward. The next pool was larger, and this time 6 orcs emerged. All level 24. I knew brute force wouldn't be enough to end this quickly, so I activated essence manipulation and channeled essence into my muscles. My body responded instantly, becoming faster and heavier. The first orc swung its molten club at me, but I sidestepped and smashed my fist into its chest, sending it flying into the others. I dashed forward, grabbed the second orc's head, and crushed it between my palms. The others roared and attacked together, but I jumped into the air and above their heads to get behind them. Then I didn't give them a chance to recover. I blurred through them, smashing heads and breaking bodies one by one. After a few minutes, the fight was over. I stood in the middle of the broken bodies, breathing heavily. My muscles felt warm, my body pulsing with energy. Level up. Level 20 level 21. I grinned. Not bad. And pushed all the gained stats into dexterity. I kept moving forward. After walking for a while, I reached an even larger pool. 10 orcs this time. Oh, level 24. I let out a breath and activated Synapse Boost. The world slowed down as my perception expanded. Every movement, every particle in the air, I could feel them. My brain processed everything with amazing speed. I channeled essence into my legs and burst forward. Before the orcs could even react, I had already arrived in front of the first one. I punched straight through its chest, grabbed its corpse, and swung it like a weapon, smashing 2 more orcs into the lava pool. The others roared and charged at me from all directions. I activated Seismic Burst. I channeled essence into my fists and dashed through the dust cloud, breaking necks, shattering skulls, ripping apart limbs. Even when they tried to surround me, I outpaced them, moving faster and hitting harder than they could react to. In just a few minutes, all 10 orcs were dead. I stood there, surrounded by the remains of molten bodies and flowing lava, feeling the heat and energy lingering in the air. I exhaled and rolled my shoulders. My body felt light. My muscles relaxed after the intense battle. That felt good. Now, what? I stood there for a few minutes, thinking about my next target. My strength had already crossed 50, and my constitution was solid. The next logical step was dexterity. I needed 8 more points to reach the 50 mark. There were 2 ways to do that. Either level up once, and then add 10 units of essence to bridge the gap, or absorb energy to generate essence and increase dexterity. I decided to go with the first option. I moved forward. Soon enough, I reached another lava pool. 10 more orcs emerged, all level 24. How many damn level 24s are there in this place? I muttered in frustration. Without wasting time, I rushed in and ended the fight in 5 minutes. I stood there, waiting, but the level up notification never came. Oh, come on. Annoyed, I had no choice but to keep moving. I found another pool, and this time, as I crushed the 4th orc's head, the notification finally appeared. Level up. Level 21 level 22. I ignored it and finished off the remaining orcs before looking at the notification again. I dumped all the newly earned stat points into dexterity, raising it to 47. Then, without hesitation, I accessed my essence storage and transferred 10 units directly into dexterity, permanently increasing it to 50. As soon as I transferred the essence into dexterity, the familiar sensation of transformation spread through my body. But this time, it was different. I felt a strange tension in my muscles, as if countless invisible threads were weaving through my flesh, tightening and refining every fiber. My nerves burned, not with pain, but with an electrifying sharpness. I clenched my fists and felt the subtle shift in control. I could feel my muscles adjusting themselves, loosening in some places and tightening in others. I even felt my connection with different body parts strengthening. I raised my hand in front of me and waved it. It blurred. I narrowed my eyes and tried again. My hand sliced through the air, but this time I could see it perfectly. Every minute detail, every muscle contraction, every micro-movement. My eyes were able to keep up with the insane speed. I took a step forward, and my foot landed exactly where I intended. Another step, then a sprint. The ground beneath me cracked as I exploded forward. My body felt light, almost weightless, and yet every step carried terrifying force. My balance was flawless, my control absolute. I stopped instantly, without any struggle. No loss of momentum, no awkward halt. I raised my leg and kicked the air, used my fist to punch the air and checked my coordination, and things felt perfect. My muscles responded perfectly, flowing without resistance. My flexibility and reaction speed sharper than ever. I leaped high into the air, twisted my body, and landed without making a sound. The change was subtle, but the impact was very impressive. I stopped and took a deep breath. Next, only the skill was left to focus on, but before I could move forward, suddenly a tremor ran through my body. My heart thumped violently, essence stirring inside my generator core. A sudden crack resounded from within my chest. My breath hitched. My entire skeleton shifted. My legs buckled, and I dropped to one knee. Pain shot through my bones, sharp burning like molten steel being poured in my veins. I clenched my fists as my fingers bent in strange angles, the bones snapping and reforming in real time. What the hell is this? I gritted my teeth and endured. Crack, crack, crack. My entire skeleton was breaking itself down. Every bone, every joint, every fragment of my skeleton was shattering and reconstructing itself into something. The heat from the magma around me no longer burned. The pressure in the air no longer weighed on my bones. My body was adapting. No, I felt the weight of the earth, the pressure of the atmosphere, and even the tremors from the volcano beneath me, and my body adjusted. My bones shifted and reinforced themselves, becoming heavier yet more flexible, stronger yet lighter. The moment the transformation completed, I felt unshakable. I breathed heavily from the pain as I shakily stood up. Passive ability acquired. Apex body I. Stage I unlocked. Adaptive skeleton. Your bones can now adapt to any environment, granting increased durability, flexibility, and impact resistance. Damaged bones will reinforce upon healing, becoming stronger against similar injuries. Strength plus 10. Dexterity plus 10. Constitution plus 10. Synapse plus 10. Well, ain't this beautiful? I open my status. Status. Name, Billion Ironheart. Race, human. Class, not applicable. Laws, not applicable. Level, 22. Talent, Generator 3. Essence, 10 of 20. Attributes, Strength, 61. Constitution, 60. Dexterity, 60. Synapse, 61. Unused stats, 0. Skills, Essence Manipulation, Innate, Level 3. Synapse Boost, Innate, Level 3. Seismic Burst, Level 1. Abilities, Apex Body, I Passive. A new ability section appeared on my status screen. I moved my body around, testing for any noticeable changes, but I couldn't feel much difference. The changes I felt after crossing the threshold were finally reflected. I glanced at the messages. This was only stage 1, which meant there were more stat-related milestones waiting ahead. Nice. I like that. Maybe I'll push it further before hitting the next class evolution. I decided to take a little break. I rested for an hour and ate some food. I thought about the next major milestone ahead of me. My class. I wonder what options I would get. The past few weeks have been incredible from my perspective. I had 3 skills, 2 essence-based at level 3 and another at level 1. I had used essence extensively in my fights, and my talent was tied to it as well. If I managed to get a strong essence-based class, the advantage would be massive. Most people only started experimenting with essence after reaching level 100. But I could already wield it now, and that would make all the difference in my path forward. I took a deep breath and stood up. It's starting to get boring again. At this point, no number of level 24 opponents could challenge me. I wanted something stronger, something that would actually push me. I grabbed my communicator from the bag and called Arcus. His voice came through soon after. Billion, I hope you're not calling to give up, are you? I chuckled. No, Commander. I wanted to request something from you. Arcus didn't hesitate. What do you want? I paused for a moment before answering. I'm level 22 now, and the level 24s I've been fighting aren't enough anymore. They're too easy to deal with. So, can you send a real challenge my way? Arcus went silent for a few seconds, then finally spoke. Are you sure? I replied without hesitation. Yes, Commander. All right then, Arcus said. Wait for half an hour, then start moving ahead. You'll find your challenge on the way. With that, he ended the call. I kept the communicator back in a bag. Half hour. I decided to do some light exercise to pass the half hour. I started with squats, then moved on to push-ups, followed by some running and light shadowboxing. As soon as I felt enough time had passed, I grabbed my bag and moved ahead. I was curious to see what kind of challenge Arcus had planned for me. I had been walking for about 10 minutes when it happened. A lava pool in the distance began bubbling furiously. I felt the ground tremble beneath my feet. Focusing my senses, I could see the heat particles in the air agitated, swirling, and rushing in chaotic patterns. The temperature around me spiked. I dropped my bag at a safe distance and started walking toward the pool. A deep, guttural growl rumbled from within the molten depths. I stopped. My eyes narrowed as I observed the disturbances around me. What did Arcus arrange? I remained steady and focused. Power up! The moment I activated my talent, the frenzied heat particles around me slowed, then began flowing toward me. I let the generator absorb them, converting the raw energy into essence. Then, without warning, the lava in the pool erupted. Molten rock splashed outward as a single, clawed hand burst from the surface, latching onto the edge. The creature heaved itself upward, its grip digging into the solidified crust. Inch by inch, it crawled out, molten flesh dripping from its frame. My eyes widened at the sight before me. I quickly scanned the creature. Girobi Raksha, level 30. My heart pounded against my ribs. Fuck! What did you do, Commander? I muttered. It was a demoness. Specifically, a one-horned crimson demoness. She stood tall, nearly 2 heads taller than me. Her skin was a deep, solid red, smooth like a human's, but with an almost sculpted perfection. A single horn jutted from the center of her forehead, sharp and menacing. Her glowing red eyes stared at me, without blinking, cold and unreadable. She was lean, but muscular, her body built for both speed and strength. The lava sludge slid off her skin, but she didn't react, not a single flinch from the heat. She was completely unaffected, as if the burning liquid was nothing more than water. The only thing she wore was a tattered black crop top, barely covering her large, full chest, and a pair of tight shorts that clung to her muscular thighs. Her bare feet pressed against the burning ground, completely unbothered by the heat. Long, wild black hair cascaded down her back, framing a strikingly beautiful face, sharp features, high cheekbones, and full lips curled into an amused smirk. Despite the raw power radiating from her, there was an undeniable allure to her, a dangerous beauty that made it impossible to look away. This thing was level 30, which meant she had already gained a class and leveled up 5 more times after that. After level 25, stat gains weren't fixed at 5 per level like before, they depended entirely on the class. Some got more strength, others more const or dexterity. And on top of that, demons were naturally stronger than humans, especially at lower levels. They were one of the top races in the universe. Born with an affinity for fire and fire-related laws, demons were a wild race. A race of warriors. A level 30 human would generally be weaker than a level 30 demon. But that didn't explain why a demoness was here. I had no idea what she was doing in this place. But one thing was certain, she was not a creation of the abomination caged here. She was a living, breathing demoness. And looking at her, I was sure she wasn't an abomination. Finally, she moved. The demoness turned her head slowly, first left, then right, taking in the area around us. Then, her glowing red eyes locked onto me. I spoke, addressing her. Who AR? She blurred. A fist appeared in front of my face before I could even process what was happening. Boom! A sickening crunch followed as pain exploded across my nose. My vision spun, and the next thing I knew, I was flying through the air. I crashed into the ground, bounced twice, and then landed straight into a lava pool. Heat licked at my skin as I groaned, my head pounding from the impact. Shakily, I pushed myself up, scanning for the demoness. She was gone. My heart pounded. I activated Synapse Boost. Instantly, essence flooded my eyes, turning my vision sharp. The world slowed as my perception expanded. Then I heard it. A faint whistle to my left. Heat particles in the air shifted. The wind stirred unnaturally. I barely managed to raise my left arm in defense before something heavy smashed into me, a devastating punch that lifted me off the ground and sent me flying again. I tumbled across the ground, slamming into the hardened volcanic rock before skidding to a stop. I lay there, face down, feeling the burn of the rough ground against my skin. Then I pulled myself up and chuckled, blood pooling in my mouth. I spat to the side and locked eyes with the demoness. She stood there, completely unfazed, as if knocking me around was nothing more than swatting a fly. I exhaled and activated my talent. Power up! The generator roared to life inside me. Energy surged, filling every inch of my body. I activated essence manipulation, channeling raw power into my legs. My muscles tensed, charged with force. Then I sprinted forward. Synapse boost. Kept my senses sharp, locking onto the demoness. She still hadn't moved. I took the chance. Closing the distance in a flash, I shot my leg out, aiming a powerful kick straight for her head. But then she blurred. My eyes widened. Too fast. Even with Synapse boost active, I couldn't see her move. A shift. A presence to my right. Before I could guard, her leg slammed into my ribs hard. Pain ripped through me as I shot through the air like a bullet, crashing straight into another lava pool. Boom! I lay face down in the pool, my head spinning from the impact. Gritting my teeth, I forced my eyes open and dragged myself out of the lava. My ribs throbbed with pain, every breath a reminder of the hit I'd taken. I thought I could at least keep up with her. But I was wrong. I heard footsteps approaching. The demoness walked barefoot toward me, her feet crunching against the burned ground. I lay there, breathing heavily, my body working fast to repair itself. I could feel my passive ability kicking in, my bones adjusting and correcting themselves. The spots where I had been hit were getting extra attention, my body reinforcing them. Once I recovered, I'd be stronger than before. But that was for later. Right now, I had bigger problems. I raised my head slightly and locked eyes with the demoness. She stopped right at my feet. Who are you? I asked. The demoness grinned and clapped. Well. I'm surprised, human. I thought one punch would be enough to put you down. Yet here you are, still talking. I took a deep breath, pain flaring through my ribs as I forced myself to stand. My legs wobbled, but I stayed up. She gave me an appraising look. I can see you're strong, but unfortunately, not strong enough. She lifted her foot. My body tensed. Essence surged through me, heightening my senses, sharpening my focus. My eyes locked onto her every movement. But I failed again. The demoness vanished. A split second later, something smashed into my back, possibly her knee. I shot forward from a force. Before I could get my bearings, her hand gripped the back of my head. Then, bang, she slammed my head into the ground. Blood filled my mouth. My head swam, my vision blurred. I struggled to focus, shaking my head to clear it. Then I felt a grip on my ankle. Oh no! The world spun. She lifted me like a rag doll, leaped into the air, and boom! She slammed me back into the ground. A crater formed beneath me. I felt my internal organs shift from the sheer force of the impact. Pain exploded through my entire body. If I were a machine, this would be the moment alarms blared. Mayday, mayday! Danger, danger! I couldn't feel a single part of myself. Everything felt heavy, disconnected. The demoness grabbed my ankle again. Not again, but this time, she didn't lift me or smash me, but she dragged me across the ground. My face scraped against the rough surface as I was helplessly tossed around like a rag doll. Then, she stopped and let go of my ankle. I lay there, my face pressed into the dirt. Forcing myself to turn over, I blinked multiple times to clear my vision. At first, all I saw was a blurry figure approaching, her shape towering over me. I blinked again, my eyes focused. Oh fuck! The demoness was carrying a massive boulder on her head. Grinning from ear to ear, she walked toward me, each step slow and steady. She stopped a few feet away and locked eyes with me. Let's do a little experiment, she said, amusement dripping from her voice. We're going to see whether this rock is faster, or you are. I'll throw it up, and You have to move out of the way. You understand, right? Good. Let's go. With a roar, she hurled the enormous rock, 4 feet wide, 6 feet tall, high into the air. I stared at it as it soared upward. The demoness' voice rang out from the side. Time is ticking, human. Tick-tock, tick-tock. I had the strength to move. I just didn't want to. There was no point. Not in front of her. So I decided to trust my body and wait. The rock reached its peak. Then it started falling. Fast. The demoness laughed. Don't tell me you've given up, human. I fake chuckled and bragged. Give up? You're too weak to make me give up. Then, the rock came crashing down. Boom. Pain. Tremendous pain. Seconds passed. Then, I felt a presence near me. The demoness whispered in my ear. We're going to have so much fun. That was the last thing I heard before everything faded to black. I woke up to the taste of blood in my mouth. My entire body felt like I had been run over by a stampede, then trampled again just for good measure. Every breath sent a dull ache through my ribs, but the pain was already fading slowly, steadily. My passive ability was working. I could feel it. My bones shifted ever so slightly, realigning themselves with quiet pops. Torn muscles stitched back together, tighter and denser than before. The spots where the demon's attacks had hit burned the most, my body focusing on them first. My ribs? Strengthening. My spine? Hardening. Every wound was a blueprint for my body's next upgrade. I flexed my fingers, then curled them into a fist. The ground beneath me was still warm, cracked from the impact of that damn boulder. I must have been out for a while. I stared up. I had no choice. The boulder was still sitting on my chest, and on top of it sat the demoness, grinning down at me like she was enjoying a front-row seat to my suffering. The weight pressed down on me, making each breath feel like I was sucking air through a straw. I shifted, trying to lift the damn thing off, but it wouldn't budge. My muscles screamed in protest. The demoness wiggled her finger at me. No, no, no. You shouldn't do something like that. She tilted her head, feigning concern. You might break yourself. I clenched my teeth and glared at her. Pretty sure you already did that. She chuckled, tapping the boulder. Oh, come on. You're still breathing, aren't you? That means we can keep playing. I exhaled sharply, focusing on my body. My passive healing was working, but it wasn't instant. I needed time. Unfortunately, time was the one thing she wasn't going to give me. The demoness hopped off the boulder, then with a kick, sent it flying off my body. I coughed violently, more blood leaking from my mouth. The demoness' red eyes locked onto me once again. I ignored her, clenched my teeth, and forced myself up. Rolling my shoulders, I tested my movements. Pain flared with every shift, sharp and deep. I was still injured badly. If I wanted at least 50% recovery, I need another 4 or 5 hours of rest. But I didn't have that luxury. The demoness watched me with a twinkle in her crimson eyes, a faint smirk playing on her lips. I narrowed my eyes, thinking, how was I supposed to proceed from here? I had no idea if this was part of what Arcas wanted. I checked my essence store, full. That gave me options. I could dump it all into Synapse, enhance my perception, and at least track her movements. Or I could boost my constitution, tank her attacks, then catch her off guard and give her a proper beating. Before I could decide, she spoke. What are you thinking so hard about? I didn't answer. She placed her hands on her waist and pouted. Come on, I was just doing what I was told. No need to ignore me like this. My expression eased slightly at that. Explain. Her grin widened as she took a step closer, too close. Then, without warning, she wrapped her arms around mine, hugging it against her body. Heat radiated off her bare skin, pressing into mine. I wasn't wearing a shirt, so I felt them too. She was taller than me by 2 heads, and the way she practically draped over me made the situation even more awkward. She didn't seem to care. With a playful tug, she pulled me along and continued. Well, I heard you're here for training, and if I help you with that, my prison time here gets reduced. I turned my head toward her. Your sentence? Why were you imprisoned? Her smile faltered. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She took her time before answering. I was on a mission with my squad, but one of them betrayed us. We were ambushed by the Phantoms. My entire team was wiped out that day. Her voice lowered, the usual amusement gone. I ran. I had no choice. I got lost in the chaos and ended up in your world. I remained silent, absorbing her words. She exhaled slowly. Some people tried taking advantage of me. I had to defend myself, so I killed them. My eyes widened. She was level 30. That meant she wasn't much older. But she had already killed people. As we walked, my gaze drifted to the ground, my thoughts lingering on that part. I had slaughtered abominations, crushed them, ripped them apart. But those were monsters, things that needed to be killed. I had never taken a human life. I wondered when the time came, how would I handle my first kill? I shook my head, shoving the thought aside. What happened after that? I asked. She shrugged. The people I killed had some important connections, she said with a sigh. Because of that, I had to run again. But I was caught. And now I'm here. I chuckled. So, what you're saying is, you basically speed ran from unlucky soldier to wanted fugitive to lava cave prisoner. Impressive career path. She blinked, then laughed. That's one way to put it. I smirked. So what should I call you? She met my gaze, smiling. You can call me Giro. I nodded. Giro it is. Now, you were saying something about helping with my training. Her eyes lit up, and she nodded several times. Yes. I was getting bored. Finally, we can have some fun. We walked a little further before stopping in front of a massive lava pool, the molten surface bubbling like it was alive. She stepped away from me, stopping at the edge of the lava pool. Her eyes scanned the bubbling molten sludge, and she muttered to herself, "Yeah, this'll work." Then she turned to me. "All right, here's what's next. You're going to step into the pool, endure the heat, and I'm going to attack you. Your goal? Either dodge or tank my hits while standing in the lava sludge and, not get cooked alive." I blinked at her. "You want me to start now? You can see I'm in no condition to fight, right?" She nodded sagely, her two peaks bouncing slightly with emotion. "Doesn't matter. No excuses. I'm bored. I can't just sit around waiting for you to recover." I shook my head, but before I could finish, she blurred. A gust of heat brushed against my skin, and suddenly she was inches away. I barely had time to react before she grabbed my wrist and twisted. Crack! Pain exploded up my arm. "Phew!" I shouted. "Why would you do that?" She grinned, wide and wicked. "For fun." And then she hurled me straight into the lava. I crashed into the lava pool with a heavy splash, molten sludge splattering around me. The heat hit instantly. It wasn't just hot, it was suffocating. A searing, liquid force that wrapped around my body like a vice, trying to burn through my skin. My muscles tensed instinctively, but I forced myself to move. I stood up quickly, hissing as the thick lava sludge clung to my legs. Then I looked at my wrist. It was already swelling, the broken bone screaming in protest. My body fought to heal it, my ability kicking in to stop the damage from worsening, but the pain still lingered. "Ah, shit," I muttered under my breath. A voice called out from the edge of the pool. "All right, human. I'm starting in 30 seconds. Try not to get cooked before then." I looked up to see her waving at me, grinning like a child about to play a game. I ignored her. My body wasn't ready for a fight. My movements were sluggish, my strength wasn't back yet, and I needed at least a few hours to recover properly. But there was no choice. I exhaled sharply and forced my feet into a proper stance. The lava burned against my skin, but I gritted my teeth and bore with it. I had to either dodge or endure. To increase my chances, I pulled up my status and dumped 10 points into Constitution. My body reacted immediately. The dull ache in my ribs eased slightly, my wrist stopped swelling, and I could feel my passive healing speeding up. Then, I added another 10 points into Synapse. My vision sharpened. My senses heightened. I could hear the bubbling of the lava more clearly, feel the faint shifts in the air, detect the way heat moved around me. Even if the boost wasn't huge, it was better than nothing. Finally, I activated my generator core. A hum vibrated through my chest as it roared to life, ready to absorb energy and generate essence again.